traveling from Hunter. Author, Battle Ring. Chapter 201, The Abilities of Ilmi, Endowed. Brother, how did you come up with this? On the roof of a high-rise building, Fischer sat on the edge of the building, looking at the night scene below, feeling a little speechless. The person next to Fischer is none other than Fischer's old brother, Ilfan, who hasn't shown up for a long time, not even in the Chimera Ant battle. As for why Fischer said these words, there is a reason for that. 1 month after Kurapika's return, half a month later, Fischer started to prepare to control the V5 international high-level leaders. However, Fischer didn't find out until Fischer found these powerful people. What the hell? These guys are controlled by Ilfans. In other words, it was a waste of time. Before, Netero sent a message to itself on the first day to persuade the top management of V5, and sent a message to itself on the third day, saying that V5 agreed. Fischer found it strange at the time. After all, this kind of thing basically takes some time with the 640 approach of politicians. As a result, we set off on the same day, contacted the next day, and gave a reply on the third day. No matter how you think about it, this kind of thing is impossible. It wasn't until Fischer made a trip to control these guys. These guys are all under the control of their El Brother Year fans. And it's perfectly controlled. Those guys don't have the special control needles for eel fans, and everything behaves very normal, no different from normal people. If one of them hadn't said a code word of the Zoldyck family when he was about to do it, Fischer really didn't know that these guys had been controlled by the Zoldyck family. Afterwards, Fischer followed the code word and came here. Well, after coming here, Fischer knew that the people behind the scenes were eel fans. Fischer is very curious about how the eel fans control these guys. Dad Silva said before that the high-level power holders of V5 International have their own defense methods in this regard, and it will not be easy for people to succeed. But Ilmi did it. His Emiton needs to read the needle, so it is impossible for his Emiton to control the top of V5. There are other situations in between. As Fischer remembered, the system rewarded the guy with the ability to be endowed. Isn't this ability amazing? When Fischer was puzzled, Ilmi spoke up and explained to Fischer. Remember the ability you gave me? Actually, the real name of that ability should be called Giving Back. I can bestow the seeds of non-ordinary people, and help them awaken, and finally reclaim them. In addition to my active recovery, I have given them seed, and the person who awakened and died then will also be taken back by the power given, and it becomes my ability. At the same time, their thought energy is recovered. Before, I bestowed seeds on a group of talented children, and let them awaken. One of the children awakened a controlling. As long as there are photos, it can be controlled even thousands of miles away. However, this ability is very weak, and even controlling a person is a bit troublesome. It's troublesome to control a person, that's because of his weak state ability. That's why I let this kid use restriction middle.oath, and used his life to control the high-level V5 international politicians who regard Zoldyck as an enemy, and let him work for me. When I said this, eel fans were very excited, calm, without the slightest feeling of how cruel his actions were. However, this is also the character of eel fans. This guy, Ilmi, as long as he achieves his goal, he doesn't care even if he does it by hook or by crook. Hey, is that so? If you use the restriction oath and use it with one person's life, it can indeed be successful. Fischer was not surprised by the way of eel fans, because it was very similar to eel fans' style, so he didn't say much. Because I thought about it in my heart. Ilmi's bestow ability is very similar to the holy text of Yuhabush in the world of death. It can be bestowed, and it can also be retrieved successfully. It's very similar to Benjamin's N, the first prince of the Kajin Empire in this world. It's just that the N of Benjamin Huigiru is that N will be controlled by those who are loyal to him after death. Eel fans can take the initiative to recycle these N, and even the N-chi can be taken as their own. Besides, Ilmi's method of controlling the V5 ruler cannot be imitated by others, because the user has already died due to the compulsory restriction oath. Even if N becomes an afterthought, there will be no one who controls it. However, eel fans perfectly avoided this condition, obtained the user's N, became the person in control, and the person in charge of V5. It's really a good ability. However, do you want to recycle your energy? Eel fans have never been idle during this time. Thinking of this, Fischer was a little curious about the strength of this guy's current energy. This guy's thought energy has always been restrained, and he can't perceive a specific intensity. Just do it. Fischer directly realized the detection mobile phone. 702,365. Damn. Seeing the detector on the phone, Fischer cursed unconsciously. Before that, Ilmi's thought strength was only over 300,000. So much for not seeing this guy in months. Hey, is this the strength of my thoughts now? It seems that my Nyanki has already surpassed my father and grandpa. Fischer uses the detection mobile phone, and eel fans are naturally familiar with it. Fischer came over the first time he used it, looking at the mobile phone. The detection value, said with great interest. Thinking too much, in the current Zoldyck family, your mind energy intensity is at most the 6th. Fischer rolled his eyes at him and said, myself, great-grandfather Maha, Grandpa Gino, Father Silva, Shizuku, and after that are his eel fans. That's right. It seems that a lot of changes have taken place in the family recently. Is it the time to go to NGO? Year fans were also shocked when they heard the words. Well, it was that time. I wanted you to go over. But you didn't respond. Fortunately, you haven't lost your strength. However, Illumi, has your spirit and strength improved? Fischer looked at Illumi suspiciously. He was worried that the situation of Eel fans was the same as that of Shizuku. Sure enough, as soon as Fischer said this, the face of Eel fans froze. Even the paralyzed face became a little erratic. As expected, you are in the same situation as Shizuku. I think it's better for you to increase your manifest energy for the time being. Otherwise, no matter how strong your latent energy is, you won't be able to use the power you should have. Fischer sighed slightly, and kindly advised. I naturally know this, so I haven't continued to empower others recently. Although this ability is easy to use, it takes a long time to cultivate in people, and you need to find some talented seedlings if you want to get more energy. Illumi also sighed slightly, very happy reluctantly said. Who knows how much he has spent this time trying to improve his thoughts. Ilian, have you tried this ability on people? Fischer blinked after hearing this, and then asked. Chapter 202, Eel fans, you are the worst. I really didn't expect this, because already hasn't. Fischer's words seemed to open a new door for Eel fans, and Eel fans seem eager to try at this time. At the same time, Eel fans also look at this Fischer with a look of your boy is worse than me. In this regard, Fischer's response is a pair of dead fish eyes, like to do it or not. I'm bad. What's wrong with me? Don't want to give you an opinion. According to what you just said, help others awaken, and then develop which one takes no time. I don't know how much time it will take to wait for them to ascend. Moreover, if it is given to some people with extremely poor talent and aptitude, it is estimated that they will only have so much thoughtfulness after 1 year of cultivation. It would be better to squeeze those who have already become people, which saves time and effort. I have to think of a way. Rubbing his chin, Fan began to think about the feasibility of Fischer's suggestion. Don't think too much, I can give Onin your opinion right now. The empowering power of the reward is bestowed on your blood, and it won't be long before you find a way to make them drink your blood. Just harvest it when the time comes. Fischer directly gave his thoughts. The ability bestowed by Ilmi is most similar to the holy text of Yuhabush in the God of Death. The Quincy masters who drink the blood of Yuhabush can awaken their own holy text and their own power. As for what power to awaken, it depends on what they want. Ilmi is like this now, as long as you condense the bestowed power into a seed and hide it in your own blood, and then drink it for others without anyone noticing. Then when the seed takes root and germinates, Ilmi can harvest. Hey, this is fine. Sure enough, there is no good person in our Zoldyck family, and neither do you, Fischer. Eel was fascinated with the same expression on your face. Fischer, exclamation mark. After bumping into and beating up Ilmi, Fischer separated from him. After separating from Ilmi, Fischer didn't go back to Kukalu Mountain directly, but went to another place. That is Lemiel's secret realm of reading after death. I made an appointment with Busong before, and I will take this guy with me when I'm going to the Dark Continent. For this agreement, Fischer didn't take it seriously before, because Fischer couldn't go to the Dark Continent before. After all, Lemiel's breath was imprinted on his body, and when he went there, he would shine like a light bulb in the dark. Minutes will be watched by the gods over there. But after the system signed in and rewarded him with a breath-holding technique, which can perfectly hide his aura and go to the Dark Continent, this agreement with Busong needs to be fulfilled. At that time, Fischer accepted the deal with Bsn in the secret realm, and obtained the poisonous N of Bsn, which can make extremely powerful poison. At the same time, due to the acceptance of the transaction, the two parties established constraints. As long as Fischer is going to the Dark Continent, he must come to find Busong and bring him there. If not, then Fischer will be backlashed by restrictions. Fischer couldn't go to the Dark Continent before, so this restriction is as useless as farting. But now, Fischer is going, and this constraint becomes Fischer's trouble. However, if you bring this guy, you can bring this guy. Fischer is not afraid that this guy will make trouble. The current Fischer, even if he doesn't use his broken divinity, even though he won't win against the weak Bosun, it's not too dangerous. Although he has only been here once, Fischer is very familiar with the secret place. It only took half an hour for Fischer to arrive at the deepest part of the secret realm, where Busong is located. It's still the same volcano, nothing has changed. It was as if the eruption never happened when Fischer and others came over. I didn't expect you to come here in just 1 year. Busong felt the appearance of Fischer immediately, and quickly appeared in front of Fischer, saying excitedly. However, the next moment, Busong discovered something was wrong. Your strength increases at a faster rate. Busong's pupils constricted, terrified. Obviously, Jisong also has a way to perceive a person's specific strength. Let's not talk nonsense. I came here this time to tell you that I will go to the Dark Continent in another month. However, it will take a long time to go to the Dark Continent. It will take at least 2 or 3 months. What are you going to do? Fischer didn't want to have too much communication with this guy, so he went straight to the point. Hearing this, Busong also slightly calmed down his stormy heart. After calming himself down again, Busong looked at Fischer with a complicated expression, and then spoke slowly. I have a box. As long as I stay in it, I can resist the weird power of your world, but the box can last for half a year. You have to send me to the mainland within half a year. I see. What kind of secret treasure is it? Fischer nodded suddenly. 743. Well, it's a secret treasure I got in hell. However, once I enter here, I can't move on my own. Someone must take me to move. Busong nodded, telling the truth. Hey, if you tell this kind of secret, aren't you afraid that I will deliberately delay the time? Fischer squinted slightly when he heard this, and said with some malicious intentions, the previous restriction is that you will send me back when you go to the Dark Continent, so as long as you have any initiative to delay time and let me have an accident, then the restriction will come to you. Even with your current strength, you can't bear the consequences of my death. You can try it, Busong said with a smile on the corner of his mouth without any fear. TCH, so that's the case. Did the restrictions at that time still have such regulations? It's really ginger or it's old and spicy. I see. Hide in, I'll take you out, and set off directly in another month. The voyage will take about 3 months, that is to say, it will take you 4 months to send you to the Dark Continent. Fischer curled his lips and said unhappily. Fischer still doesn't want to deal with this kind of old guy who calculates all day long. Let this guy go into the box early and stay. Can. Chapter 203 Fun, Invitation, and Cooperation. In the following month, Fischer was forced by his mother to take Mencha and others out for half of the time. Let's just call it shopping, not like traveling. According to my mother, let Fischer cultivate a good relationship with Mencha and others, and it is best to hit the base directly. Looking at it like this, although my mother followed Fischer's persuasion before, she didn't give up all of it. My mother said that if Fischer sparked sparks with Mencha and others during the voyage, and had a child of the Zoldyck family, then let Fischer must send him back. In this regard, Fischer did not resist much. After all, this kind of thing is very normal. There are many people who are forced into marriage by their parents, even for a strong person like Fischer. If Song wants you to have the filial piety, you can't violate this kind of request that is not too much. Fischer did not resist this kind of love between men and women, so his mother asked Fischer to go shopping with Mencha and others. When traveling, Fischer did not directly refuse, and took a group of people out for a walk according to his mother's arrangement. Speaking of which, this is really the first time for Fischer to travel and go shopping. Before that, Fischer's life was not considered depressing, but he always lived in a two-point line. Going out is either a mission or becoming stronger. Even if it's not these two kinds, every time you go out, you have something to do. This is the first time for Fischer to wander around and travel around without any purpose. In the previous life, I often heard that once the practitioner relaxes after being suppressed, the speed of cultivation will be greatly improved. The ancients are sincerely not deceiving me. In Kukulu Mountain, feeling the cultivation level of mind energy in his body, Fischer was deeply moved. Originally, Fischer accompanied Mencha and others to go out for a walk, wasting the time of practice. But the fact is the complete opposite. During the time when Fischer went out to relax with Mencha and others, when Fischer practiced occasionally, the speed of improving his mind energy was several times that of usual. You know, this is several times. In the case of dry times, this came as a shock to Fischer. However, Fischer did not go out of his way to pursue this situation either, because Fischer knows that this is an opportunity that cannot be sought after, and it can only happen if you let it happen naturally. If you deliberately pursue it, you will be inferior and will not appear again. At this time, the door of Fischer's room was opened without warning, and Miji's fat face appeared in front of Fischer's eyes. Fischer, a guest is looking for you. Miji, who walked in, said to Fischer, have guests come to see me? It would be good if the housekeeper reported this kind of thing directly. Hearing this, Fischer felt a little strange. I just happened to come to you with something, so I'll tell you, Miji explained lightly. Need me anything? Come on, what's the matter? Fischer was a little surprised, temporarily putting aside the matter of the guest, and asked. Miji is the master of the 3 treasures hall for everything. Basically stay in his dark room to control the computer, or go to his studio to make some bombs and the like. This guy has something to look for himself. It is really Bai Susan who is pregnant. Wait 1,000 years. Dad said, let me also participate in this march into the Dark Continent. At that time, I will use the network to monitor BW. Miji squinted his eyes and said a little uncomfortable. He was studying hard in the room, but he was dragged out by his father, and he was given such a heavy responsibility. He doesn't want to go to the Dark Continent at all. Okay, staying well with the Zoldyck family. Where are you going? You? Fischer doubted the ridiculous explanation. You must know that this is a ship built by the Kajin Empire with all its efforts. Needless to say, the defense in all aspects, the degree of defense on the internet is definitely very strong. Does it really work? What kind of eyes do you have? Didn't you say that before? Students will be treated with admiration for 3 days. Ever since I ate the fruit you gave me, I have been constantly inspired in this regard. Now I dare say that no one in the whole world is my opponent in terms of the internet. Seeing Fischer's suspicious eyes, Mi Yan was even more upset. I help you with good intentions, but you still maintain such a skeptical attitude. Who is it? Well, This guy's inspiration fruit is easy to trigger inspiration and enhance intelligence. I thought this guy would develop into making bombs, but I didn't expect to develop into the network. Originally, my mother would be stronger than me in this respect, but my mother has to stay at Kukulu Mountain, so I have no choice but to accept this job. After venting a bit, Miji continued. Then you still say that no one in this world can compare with you. Hearing Miji's incoherent words, Fischer sneered. Mom can't be counted, that's my own person, not an opponent. Miji suddenly became angry from embarrassment, and roared thickly with jealousy. Yes, I understand, then I'll leave it to you. Fischer shook his head funny, and then said perfunctorily. After finishing speaking, he walked past Miji and left the room, leaving Miji alone to sulk because of Fischer's words. Soon, Fischer came to the living room. Huh? It's you, old man Nitaro. Vertical bar and this one, by Jand? Why did you come to find me at this time? Fischer was a little surprised when he saw the person coming. It was none other than Isaac Nitaro and Bill Nitaro, father and son. I'm here to see what kind of existence made my father give up the shackles on me, and also took the initiative to give birth to the idea of going to the Dark Continent. Bang, Nitaro said with a grin. Then, seeing you now, how do you feel about it? Fischer asked with a faint smile upon hearing this. Monster, you are a real monster. Bayang still grinned, and then said it directly without hiding his thoughts. Ever since Fischer appeared, Bayang felt a very strong sense of crisis from Fischer. Banda was sure that if he confronted Fischer, he would definitely be defeated by Fischer in a very short time, seriously injured, or even died. You're not bad either, Fischer said meaningfully upon hearing this. The strength of this guy's energy is comparable to that of Nitaro. Should he be said to be Nitaro's son? Although, Wang Zhao is compared to Nitaro, who is less than half the strength of the peak, but this level is very rare among players. In terms of mind energy, it is not an exaggeration to say that Bayangda is at the level of the top 5 ninjas. Thank you for the compliment. Although Fischer looks small, Debbie Bayang didn't treat Fischer differently because of his age. Bayang Debbie only valued strength. So for Fischer, a strong man who made him feel very dangerous, Bayangda maintained respect in his heart, and accepted the praise of the strong man very humbly. Okay, let's get down to business. The purpose of the two of you coming to see me seems to be different. Fischer nodded, and then cut to the chase. I'm here on the commission of Nasby Huiguru. That guy Nasby wants to invite you to a banquet he specially prepared. Bayang directly expressed his intention of coming. What about you? Fischer nodded, then looked at Nitaro. Old man, I'm here to discuss cooperation with you, Team Fischer. Chapter 204 Promise to cooperate. Cooperate? Which aspect specifically? Fischer was a little interested in Nitaro's words. Because going to the Dark Continent this time, Fischer has other purposes besides making his many dependents more powerful enemies to fight and become stronger. First, look for the mother plant of the kiwi tree. As long as the mother plant is found, the Zoldyck family can rely on the kiwi fruit produced by the mother plant to strengthen their bodies. The second is to look for longevity things. No matter how much I turn on my red-eyed trait, it will be fine, because it is a perfect version rewarded by the system. And Kurapika is different. This guy's fiery red-eye state has absolute time, and every second consumes 1 hour of life. Previous battles with Neferpitu and Shapf cost Kurapika months of life. It's not a good thing to continue like this. After all, Kurapika's ability cannot be hidden. Even without using absolute time, Kurapika's strength is still very strong. But only Kurapika using absolute time is the most powerful. On this point, Fischer, who can also open the absolute time, is very sure. When fighting against the Ant King before, 097 Fischer used the absolute time ability to use 100% of the enhancer Nianki to combine the power of Domineering and Thunder Fruit to fight. Finding both requires professionals. Although there are also professionals in the Zoldyck family, such as Crook of the Plant Hunter and Gallo of the Poison Hunter, both of them have strong achievements in this regard. There are also talents in this area among the butlers trained in the Zoldyck family, but it is undeniable that the Zoldyck family still has some shortcomings compared with the hunters of the entire Hunter Association. After all, there are specializations in the art industry. If the aspect of cooperation does not conflict with his own goals, Fischer does not mind cooperating. Which aspect? Of course it's all of them. Watch and help each other. Nitaro couldn't help raising his eyebrows when he heard this, and then said, That's nothing to talk about. I only have 2 goals, and I don't want to participate in anything that has nothing to do with these 2. Hearing Nitaro's answer, Fischer directly refused. After all, he has only 2 goals, but Nitaro wants to cooperate in all aspects. Who knows how many species are included in this whole? No matter how you think about it, it's your own side that suffers. If you really cooperate, then the dependents under your command will not be able to improve their favors, and the gains outweigh the losses. Let's talk about your purpose first, and see if there are any similarities. Seeing Fischer's straightforward refusal, Nitaro's face froze, and then he said again, My purpose is twofold. One is to find a kiwi tree that bears fruit that can improve the body, and the other is to find something for longevity. Is it compatible with the purpose of your Hunter Association? Fischer didn't hide anything, and stated his goal. I haven't heard of the first one, but the second one is okay. This time I mobilized the Hunter Association to participate in this trip to the Dark Continent for two purposes. One is selfishness. I want to find an opponent worthy of my respect and worthy of my all-out fight. The other is to solve one of the 5 major disasters in the world today. The long-lived food Illumi has been searched for by the country, so let's set the goal of the Hunter Association this time so we can cooperate. Netero pondered for a moment, and then said to Fischer, after all, what the country that was looking for long-lived food Illumi brought back is one of the 5 major disasters, a monster that can infect murderous aura? The double-tailed snake. Since Fischer's goal is longevity food, it's just right to target the Hunter Society with this disaster. Well, it's not impossible to cooperate in this case. Fischer heard this, thought for a while, and agreed to Netero's cooperation request. Happy cooperation, Fischer. Netero stood up, stretched out his hand to Fischer, grinned and showed a mouthful of white teeth, and said like an old urchin, happy cooperation. Fischer also extended his hand and held it together, smiling. Then, old man, I will leave first. Fischer, remember to get ready, the BW will start to move in a week, board the BW early, and don't make trouble. Netero nodded, and left here after a warning. Huh? Your dad is gone, why don't you go? After Netero left, Fischer looked at Byangd who was still sitting motionless on the sofa, and asked Fox. You haven't responded to my message just now, Byangd said while looking at Fischer while crossing his chest. TCH, I don't really want to attend the banquet hosted by that guy. You decline it for me. Fischer's eyes turned into dead fish eyes, Mzikwe. Fischer really didn't like the royal family of the Kajin Empire. After all, the heirs of the royal family of the Kajin Empire were raised by raising you. This system is a very powerful system for a country because the prince who came out of the fight, his ability and means are absolutely very powerful, and he can better lead a country to a stronger road. But Fischer just couldn't see them. Without him, raising you is something Fischer hates. In addition, Nasby Huiguru also has bad intentions for this trip to the Dark Continent. This guy said in the original book that the more than 200,000 low-level civilians on the BW were sacrificed in the War of Succession, obviously with very cruel ideas. Well, if that's the case, then I'll reject that guy for you. To be honest, I don't like that guy very much either. When I got the answer, Byangda also stood up and said with a big smile. Immediately, Yangda was ready to leave here. However, before Byangda could leave, a figure walked in at the gate. Fischer, if you have nothing to do, let's go there. Gino walked in with his hands behind his back, and said to Fischer, hey, why do you want to attend such a meaningless banquet, Grandpa? Fischer's expression changed immediately when he heard this. After all, it is a matter of sophistication, and this time, we are also cooperating with the Kajin Empire to explore the Dark Continent. It is estimated that Nasby also has something to ask for you. It's best to clarify some things early, and it's best not to have conflicts. Gino explained lightly. Clarify. I see, I'll take the trouble to go. Fischer heard the words, muttered, and then curled his lips and agreed. Are you going to participate? Since that's the case, I'll reply to Nas like this. The time is 3 nights later, in the palace of the Kajin Empire. Seeing that Fischer changed his mind, Byangd also changed his words. I see, I will go. Please reply to that fat man. Fischer waved his hand casually and said absent-mindedly, hee, goodbye then. Byangda waved his cloak, turned and left. Chapter 205 Fishpond Fried Fish, Dimensionality Reduction Strike. In the resplendent hall, looking at the fat man in front of him, Fischer seemed uninterested. The person in front of Fischer was none other than the king of the Kajin Empire, Nasby Huiguru. Yes, only him. The banquet held by Nasby Huiguru was not the kind of public banquet, but a family banquet, and only the royal family members attended. Fischer has already attended, but Fischer is not interested in the banquet at all. He just chatted with a few princes who wanted to communicate with him, and was invited here by Nasby Huiguru. Patriarch Zoldyck is honored to come here. It really makes this place flourish. Nasby said politely to Fischer with the usual squinting smile on his face. Okay, stop talking nonsense, just talk about it if you have anything to do. Regarding Nasby, Fischer didn't want to waste too much time with this guy. After all, Fischer doesn't care much about politics. Otherwise, I would not have thought of doing something with V5 when I had the power to reverse it. I needed my father Silva to remind me to think of this. This thing is so nerve-wracking to play. With that skill, Xia might as well practice more. Fischer prefers to be straightforward and crisp. Of course, it's not that Fischer can't play this thing, it's just that Fischer doesn't want to play. To play politics, one must have an opponent whose strength is equal to one's own. The strength of the opponent is too weak, so why play? Wouldn't it be good to push straight across? It seems that the Fischer family has a bad impression of this old man. Faced with Fischer's attitude, Nasby did not raise his eyebrows, but said with a smile, I don't like you. You have a bad heart, you need to be cautious when getting along with you, so I decided not to have too much communication with you. Fischer admitted his attitude very honestly, and looked at Nasby with contempt. This reaction immediately made Nasby's face stiff. However, Nasby soon came to his senses, still smiling, The Kajin Empire has reached a consensus with V5, and now it's V6. Thanks to Patriarch Fischer for this. For the help of the Fischer family, Nasby is very grateful. This trip to the Dark Continent will depend a lot on the Zoldyck family, Nasby said with a smile. Nasby has always known about the Zoldyck family, a little bit, but not much, because the information of the Zoldyck family is well protected. Even if the information is known, it is impossible to know what level the members of the Zoldyck family are. However, after seeing Fischer with his own eyes this time, Nasby knew just how terrifying the head of the Zoldyck family was. We must not be enemies of the Zoldyck family. The first time he saw Fischer, he felt the danger that Fischer exudes all the time, and Nasby made the same decision in his heart as the previous V5. He has never met anyone who can make his guardian spirit beast tremble. As a king who mastered the guardian spirit beast and also learned decades ago, Nasby's cultivation of Nchi is not bad. It is precisely because of the good cultivation of Nchi that Nasby can feel the terror of Fischer even more. It's okay if you don't perceive that kind of breath. Once you perceive it, you will feel like you are in the abyss hell, in the depths of the sea, and you are powerless to resist. At least not something he could resist. Moreover, the black-haired youth who appeared before is also very powerful. This is why he, as the king of a country and a member of V6, is not angry at all when Fischer treats him like this. This time I invite Patriarch Fischer to come here. I have something to ask Master Li of Fischer. Nasby Huiguaru put his attitude very low, and asked Fischer Kang, "Please, I don't want to accept your commission." Hearing this, Fischer raised his eyebrows, expressing his attitude directly. Not this. The old man didn't want to entrust. No, the old man hoped that Patriarch Fischer, no, the entire Zoldyck family would not accept the entrustment of my heirs. Nasby was once again choked by Fischer's unceremonious attitude. All of a sudden, the words are a little unclear. Huh? You mean someone from the Zoldyck family accepted the entrustment of your children? Hearing Nasby's words, Fischer immediately realized it. Indeed, someone from Patriarch Fischer's family accepted the commission and directly destroyed the guardian spirit beast of a certain prince. Nasby explained with a drop of cold sweat on his forehead. He still hasn't forgotten that when he was watching the surveillance, the black-haired young man destroyed the guardian spirit beast of his 8th son who had a corrupt private life with a single blow. Seeking flowers. That kind of power, even he can't do it. I have intervened. The rest of the family are at home. It seems that Elizafan is that guy Ingman hired by the princes in the succession war of the Kajin Empire. This time, it's interesting. I can connect with the princes of the Kajin Empire. These are now members of the underworld. It's not a pity to die. They can be used as food for the growth of eel fans. Fischer rubbed his chin and thought. After pondering for a moment, Fischer came back to his senses, looked at Nasby and said lightly, I can't guarantee this either. I also know about your country's succession system. During this trip to the Dark Continent, there will be a battle of successors. I won't interfere with the actions of other people in the family. This trip will take such a long time, it will inevitably be boring, and I'm not sure if anyone will be hired. Fischer replied casually, slightly perfunctory. The matter of eel fans reminded Fischer that Shizuku also seems to be able to use this opportunity to improve his strength. After all, this trip to the Dark Continent was a mixed bag, especially a lot of N people. Shizuku can also use this opportunity to enhance his Nyanki cultivation base just like eel fans. Once Shizuku made a move, Machi and Paknotan would naturally not ignore it, and would attack together and kill Yuangun. The two mischievous villains will not always keep their own place, and it is estimated that some moths will come out, just like the hunter experiment. So Fischer really didn't want to pay attention to this guy Nasby's request. Even if he offends this guy, Fischer doesn't care. Sure enough, upon hearing Fischer's reply, Nasby's face suddenly became gloomy, a little depressed. Fischer did not agree to take him away, so this time the battle of successors will be very troublesome. After all, this battle of successors is for the princes to fight to determine the most powerful and capable successor. If the young eel fan of the Zoldyck family that I saw on the surveillance continues to fight, then this battle of successors will be meaningless. After all, with the strength shown by Ilmi, it is estimated that he can easily push the influence of his sons. How can this be played? It's purely dimensionality reduction strikes. Fried fish in fish ponds. Spoons. Chapter 206 Respectful Princes, Small Punishments and Big Commandments. Now that the tropic is over, Fischer didn't stay here any longer, and after a faint greeting, he got up and left, leaving only Nasby who was thinking about how to deal with the development of the succession battle after Fischer refused to cooperate. However, as soon as he left Nasby's reception hall, Fischer saw several groups of people waiting outside. The first Prince Benjamin of the Kajin Empire, the second Prince Camilla, the third Prince Kalai, the fourth Prince Chilidnish, and the fifth Prince Zbipo were waiting in the corridor outside with their own guards. Seeing Fischer coming out, a group of people walked towards Fischer quickly at the same time. Patriarch Fischer, I have something to discuss with you. May I show you my face? The first Prince Benjamin said respectfully, with one hand on his chest, without paying any attention to his own prestige as a prince and his own strong character. As and a very powerful one among the 483 Benjamin, like his father Nasby, very clearly felt the terror of Fischer. Therefore, for Fischer, he naturally did not dare to treat him like a prince, and was very respectful. Benjamin knew very well that even though Fischer didn't have the identity of the head of the Zoldyck family, it was only the aura in him that made him feel dangerous, that made him dare not take any action. During the time Nasby talked with Fischer inside, he had already communicated with his group of men and Zimmer. The conclusions drawn by many players are extremely consistent, that is, if they fight against Fischer, they will be wiped out immediately, even if they are prepared in advance and work together, no matter how they deduce all the same. This is exactly the same as Benjamin's own feeling, so Benjamin didn't have the attitude he should have as the 10th Prince of the Kajin Empire when facing Fischer. The first Prince of the Kajin Empire, this title does have a lot of weight in front of some strong people who abide by the rules, and they can have conversations with equal status. Just like Nitero, the president of the Hunter Association, Benjamin is confident that he can rely on his own identity to have a dialogue at the same level with him. But in the face of Fischer, he feels that he should lower his posture a little bit. If Fischer feels bad about him because of his attitude, then his loss will be too great. Moreover, waiting here for Fischer this time is also asking for Fischer. Benjamin wanted to entrust Fischer to help him win the battle of successors this time. If Fischer can help himself, then this time the successor battle will be a sure thing. Taking a step back, if Fischer doesn't help himself, he won't allow other princes to get help from Fischer. Once Fischer helps other princes, no matter how confident he is on his own side, the chance of losing is as high as 9 times. Moreover, even if you can't ask Fischer to help you, you can still establish a good relationship with Fischer and entrust other members of the Zoldyck family. After Benjamin spoke, 3 of the other 4 princes also greeted Fischer one after another. After all, this time Fischer came here as the head of the Zoldyck family, and the target was Nasby Zoldyck, so the low points of their masters are normal. Only the 4th Prince Selidnish is a special case. At this moment the guy was looking at Fischer with a faint smile on his face. Master Fischer, your Zoldyck family is really domineering. I met a Zoldyck family steward named Kurapika before. That guy indiscriminately took away all the red eyes, a collection that I just bought, from my hands. Selidnish said with a light smile. His words were full of yin and yang. Yes, Kurapika restrained you from being killed by Kurapika. Fischer glanced at Selidnish lightly, and then looked back, revealing a look that would be polluted even if he looked at it for a second longer. Said with an expression on his face, and after he finished speaking, he walked past him directly and headed forward. Facing Fischer's reaction, Selidnish's expression remained unchanged, but his pupils constricted, and a tyrannical thought subconsciously appeared in his heart. This guy. However, the next moment, Selidnish's face changed, and he froze in place, with cold sweat dripping from his face. The other princes also looked at Selidnish in shock. It's just that a thunder cage composed of dark purple thunder and lightning appeared silently beside Selidnish at this time, completely imprisoning Selidnish in it. Seeing this scene, everyone present was astonished, and at the same time their expressions changed wildly. Without him, the lightning cage where Selidnish was imprisoned exudes a very terrifying and dangerous aura. The people present did not doubt at all that once they encountered this lightning, would they be struck by the lightning in an instant. The 3rd prince and the 5th prince are okay. They who are not naughty feel bad about it. But the 1st prince, Benjamin, and the 2nd prince, Camilla, are different. Their senses are vastly different from those of the other 2 princes, and they can clearly feel the power contained in the lightning gauge. Fear. Cold sweat slowly emerged from the faces of the 2, gathered into a drop, and then slowly slid down the cheeks of the 2. Even though Fischer's lightning cage wasn't aimed at them, it still made them terrified. This is not the case for both Benjamin and Camilla, who are the parties involved. As the party involved, Selidnish is even more unbearable. Cold sweat keeps breaking out and slipping down. A little older will encounter these lightning cages that surround him and imprison him. At that time, even if he is very talented, who has studied for a month and has improved by leaps and bounds, will definitely not be able to stop this thunder and lightning, and will be wiped out in ashes directly. But at this time, Fischer, who had gone away, slowly said a word. If you have evil thoughts in your heart, you will be punished with a small punishment. For the sake of taking the BW of your Kajin Empire next time, I will let you off this time. This lightning cage only lasts for 12 hours, after which it will dissipate. 5.8. In these 12 hours, you can reflect inside. Next time, don't expose your malice casually, and if you dare to show malice to me again, I will not show mercy. Hearing Fischer's words, everyone was even more frightened. Everyone knew that this sentence was not just for the 4th Prince Selidnish, but also for everyone present. This time is a special case. Next time, anyone who dares to have bad thoughts towards Fischer, Fischer will do it directly, and there will be no possibility of holding back. In other words, the next time Fischer hits them, their result will be death. For a moment, everyone present looked at Selidnish with extremely complicated eyes. In particular, the princes wanted to peel off Selidnish's skin. Is this guy drifting away? Dad is polite to this guy even if you don't see him, so you just rush in front of him and get weird. Chapter 207, Operation begins. Fischer's arrangements. After being invited to Nasby's family dinner that time, everything went smoothly for a week. Then, the colonization of the Dark Continent began grandly. The B-W began its voyage to the New World. Fischer completely ignored the swearing-in meeting and Eve festival held by the Kajin Empire. No one from the Zoldyck family attended either. After entering the BW, the Zoldyck family went directly to the Zoldyck family's exclusive area specially opened up by the Kajin Empire for the Zoldyck family in the B-W, adjacent to the VIP area. The area where Netero and the others live is the VIP area. Among the members who went to the Dark Continent this time, members of the Zoldyck family included Fischer, Gino, Silva, Ilmi, Miji, Killua, Aluka, Kaluto, and Fischer's direct butler forces all participated. Moreover, as for the direct butlers of Father and Grandfather Gino, they did not join this trip. They were left in Kukalu Mountain by their grandfather and father. Although Kukalu Mountain has great-grandfather Maha and mother Kikyo staying in 09, it also needs some strong N to cooperate with them. So after discussion, Grandfather Ginuo and father left their respective butler forces to Mom Drives. As for the remaining ordinary butlers, more than 100 people came. They were talents from various fields, and they were divided into several groups led by Fischer's direct butlers. It is no different from the grouping of the Hunter Association in the original book. An intelligence team led by Kurapaka, Paknoten, Michi, and Kaluto. The scientific team led by Gailu, Menchai, and Pang Mu. The defense team led by Neferpitu, Menthuthuipi, Father Silva, and Father Gino. The rest is the biological team, composed of Crook, Killua, Gun, and Shizuku. As for the remaining Fischer and Eel fans, they are idlers, and they can go to any group they want. As for Miji, this guy can't form a combat force at all. He can only control BW number at most. Mikai, you can start monitoring the network of the B-W. Be sure to keep everything on this ship in hand, and report to me as soon as something important happens. As for the standard of major events, you can judge by yourself. In the hall, a group of people from Fischer gathered together, and thanked you for giving orders to G. I know, I've been working on it for a long time. Mija was currently operating on a laptop without looking up. This laptop of his is the last computer in the human kingdom made by himself, and it is connected to the most powerful server in the human kingdom in the room he is in. Even if several countries attack together, he is confident that he can defend it alone. He really doesn't pay attention to a B-W number. By the way, this server was also created by Miji himself through continuous inspiration and the strength of the Zoldyck family, especially for this voyage. Well, I'm sorry to trouble you. Fischer also noticed, nodded and said, "It's really not many words to thank me from you." Miji muttered, and then continued with his work. Pam, use your power of the sea to monitor the sea area around the B-W, and report to me immediately if there is any danger. After arranging ridiculous tasks, Fischer turned his attention to Pang, exhorted Pam. The ability given to Pam by the system is the power of the sea. On the sea, Pam's power is the strongest, although it can't compare with Fischer. If it continues to develop, even the current Fischer can't compare, because the sea is endless. Although the place where the human kingdom is located is called Mobius Lake in the Dark Continent, it is the sea for the monsters in the Dark Continent. Pam can use the power of the sea, which will play a very important role in this voyage. Yes, I will do my best to monitor the surrounding sea area. If there is any movement, I will report to you as soon as possible. Fischer. Pang Mu smiled and said in response, "At this time, Pam has completely lost the sloveny appearance when we first met, and is very beautifully dressed, and it is still the same as when she was transformed into a chimera ant soldier in the original book. It's just that there are no fish scales on its body, and there is no huge crystal on its head, but it is still very amazing. If you want to rate it, the current Pam Fischer will give it a score of more than 9 points. Thod, there seems to be no other questions." After giving instructions to Pam, Fischer stopped and started talking to himself. Oh, right. There is one more important thing. After pondering for a moment, Fischer thought of something that he had neglected. "Aluka, can you let Nanika come out?" Fischer asked gently to Aluka, who was sitting next to Killua and was very obedient. "Eh? Nanika?" "That's fine." Aluka blinked and replied after hearing the words. "Well, please." Fischer nodded. Soon, Aluka's body was filled with a black aura. As soon as this aura appeared, the faces of everyone present changed wildly. Each of them showed a vigilant expression. Even Neferpitu, Menthuthuipi, Grandfather Gino and Father Silva all showed fearful reactions. Even Miji, who was working, stopped what he was doing and stared at Nanika with some apprehension. Only Killua and Gun and Fischer didn't. Killua and Fischer completely regard Aluka and Nanika as their relatives, so they completely ignore the evil aura on Aluka, while Gun is naturally stubborn, as long as he is not an enemy. No matter how terrifying his aura is, this guy we can get along with each other. Fischer, why did you call me 173? Nanika, who looked miserable and eyeless, asked Fischer's purpose as soon as he appeared. Brother? Killua also looked at Fischer suspiciously. When Fischer said that he would bring Aluka with him on this trip to the Dark Continent, and that he would ask Nanika for something, Killua was very confused. Now that Fischer called out Nanika, he must be ready to take care of Nanika. Nanika, Can you use your power on everyone in the Zoldyck family? Fischer nodded slightly, and then asked, AI, Fischer, what kind of power do you want me to use? Nanika nodded and responded. As soon as these words came out, Gino and Silva both frowned. Whether it is Grandpa Gino or Father Silva, there is no deep taboo about Nanika's power. Now Fischer wants to use Nika's power to act on them, which makes them very puzzled. However, they believe that Fischer would not harm them, so the two did not open their mouths to stop them. AI, what is the nature of power? Nanika nodded and continued to ask. Guardian, there are various unexplainable phenomena on the Dark Continent. I need you to plant defensive power in them. Defense against forces that are invisible to the naked eye to affect them. Why? Chapter 208. The power of Nanika. The black gas sank into the bodies of everyone present, and another one flew out here, probably going to that guy Ilmi. Ilmi left alone after arriving here. Fischer also knew that this guy was probably targeting the N in the lower floors. Moreover, judging from his behavior of targeting N people, this guy has developed a method of how to harvest N people's energy. Because it was Fischer's order, no one resisted the intrusion of the black gas, and watched the black gas enter their own gas. It hasn't changed at all. Shizuka examined his body carefully and said the same was true for the others. After checking their bodies, they found that they hadn't changed. They cast their eyes on Fischer, and a few of them looked at Nanika. That's natural. The power I let Nani bless you with is to enable you to foresee those invisible and weird powers in advance. For example, the two-tailed snake and Hell's Bell in the 5 major disasters can induce killing intent. As long as this type of power appears around you, the power of Nanika in your body will appear as a warning, allowing you to prepare in advance. As for how to deal with these forces, it's up to you. The power of Nanika will not protect you, Fischer said lightly, explaining. Fischer is not worried about the powerful creatures in the Dark Continent. The main purpose of coming here this time is to improve the grace. It would be great to meet powerful creatures. Moreover, their goal this time was the outer area of the Dark Continent, and they did not plan to go deep. No matter how strong the monsters here are, they would not be stronger than Neferpitu and the others. Some are even much weaker. With him, Fischer, Neferpitu, Menthuthuipi, Grandfather Gino, and Father Silva, the powerful creatures in the outer area can easily deal with them. What Fischer is worried about is that there are all kinds of strange monsters in the Dark Continent. Everything here is new to the Zoldyck family. Although the Zoldyck family also owns the rubbings of the New World journey and knows some things about the Dark Continent, it is the first time they have come here. I've heard the news, and I'm not familiar with this place at all, so don't be more cautious, or you may get tricked if you are not careful. That's why Fischer asked Nanika to do it. As for how to deal with those strange species and strange powers, Fischer believes that his subordinates have the wisdom and ability to deal with them. If he detects the enemy's presence and is unable to react immediately, then these dependents of his are very unqualified. At that time, Fischer will consider whether to throw the unqualified people back to the human kingdom and let them go to further studies. Fan, bring it with you when you come next time. I see, is that so? There are indeed many incredible powers on the Dark Continent, such as the 5 great disasters. If we can predict these weird species in advance and deal with them carefully, it will be very beneficial to our side. After listening to Fischer's explanation, Silva also understood the meaning of Fischer's approach. You've done a great job, Nanika. Killua also excitedly said to Nanika after hearing this. Thank you, Nanika. Gun also smiled and thanked Nanika. It was the first time to be recognized by Silva, a family member who was afraid of his power, and the first compliment other than Fischer and Killua. Thank you. Nanika looked very happy, with a pale face and the corners of his mouth were obvious evoked an arc of joy. Thank you, Nanika. Kurapika also thanked her. Unlike Fischer's family, Crook and the others knew about the tragedy that Nanika had caused before. Although they were a little shocked by Nanika's terrifying power, they were not overly afraid. So after Gun and Kurapika spoke, several people also thanked them. The curvature of the corners of Nanika's mouth became even higher, and anyone could see the joy in his heart at this moment. But at this moment, the special mobile phone in Fischer's pocket rang. Fischer took it out and saw that the old man Nitaro had called. Fischer didn't procrastinate, he directly pressed the call button and picked up the phone. Hey, Fischer. It's the old man. The old man is going to bring his companions over now. Let your subordinate Yuan calm down a bit. I'm afraid they will be frightened. As soon as the connection was made, Nitro said straight to the point. Forward. I see. Fischer was taken aback for a moment, then agreed, and then hung up the phone. Fischer forgot that Neferpitu is so useless. He turns on the circle all day and wraps the entire Zoldyck area. All corridors and empty rooms are watched by this guy. After this guy and Yuppie devoured the remnant of the Ant King, then Yanchi increased by 5 layers again, and they were almost close to Fischer. If it weren't for Fischer's cultivation speed faster than the two, he would really be followed by the two. Fischer's current Nianchi cultivation is 1.75 million, while Neferpitu and Yuppie's Nianchi are respectively 1.6 million and 1.61 million after devouring the remnant of the Ant King. The improvement is terrifying. Directly increased by more than 500,000. This is still not completely devoured, otherwise, with the strength of Ant King's thoughts. The two of them are estimated to directly break through the 2 million mark. Vertical bar P2, close your circle, and Netero will bring the members of the Hunter Association over later. Don't scare them, Fischer told Neferpitou. Previously, Nobu was almost frightened by Neferpitou's anger, and his mood collapsed. It was Fischer who stabilized this guy in time, and this guy was not so embarrassing. That is to say, everyone on Zoldik's side knows Neferpitou's circle and knows that Neferpitou is one of his own, so they can ignore the evil aura in Neferpitou's aura, which is different for other people. This guy Netero would say hello specially. Probably because some hunters probably couldn't bear Neferpitou's anger, so he needed to do this. Anyway, they are the next allies, not the enemies. It is not a good thing to give them a blow at the beginning. Yes, King. Neferpitou put one hand on his chest, bowed slightly, and responded. The next moment, the circle covering the entire Zoldyck family area shrank back. Then, okay, Brother Zhao, if there's nothing else to do, I'll take Luca out to play. Killua really couldn't sit still. After hearing that Fischer was going to meet someone next, he decided to take him with him. Luca, who had recovered, went out for a walk. Go, deal with it yourself if something happens. Fischer waved his hand casually. I see, brother. Killua nodded, then took a Luca, called Gan, and the three left. Then, Fischer, I'm going out too. I was invited by the 8th princess of the Kajin Empire to become her guard. Shizuku also stood up and said at this time, and Machi and Paknotan also stood up. Well, go ahead and increase your strength. Fuxiu smiled and nodded. Well, I know. Shizuku nodded in response, and then the three of them left here like the Killua three. On the other side, after observing the disappearance of the circle, Netero also led his team into the area machine of the Zoldyck family. Chapter 209. The new king's birth ceremony. What is this? The black hair that suddenly entered his body made ear fans very puzzled. At this time, Ilmi is in the lower area of the BW, specially coming down from above. The purpose is to hunt them. At its feet, there were already the corpses of Toon people. This aura seems to be the aura of that monster on that fellow Aluka. Is it because Fischer came to me specifically? Feeling the breath in his body, Ilmi thought silently in his heart. Aluka also participated in this action. Eel fans naturally know. He also knew that Fischer had his own purpose in letting Aluka participate in this operation. Now it seems that the black energy entering his body is probably Fischer's plan. After all, Aluka has Fischer watching, and his power will appear here and enter his body. It must be related to Fischer. Thinking of this, Eel fans are no longer worried. Cutting off his thoughts, Ilmi walked towards the corridor ahead without changing his face. As for the corpse at its feet, Ilmi had no intention of dealing with it at all. If Eel fans knew that Fischer didn't look at Aluka at all, but let Killua take Aluka out for a stroll, I don't know if it would still be the same idea. At this time, Killua and others had already left the Zoldyck area, and began to explore the BW. In 853, Shizuku also went to the territory of the 8th Princess Oit. After Killua and Shizuku left from the Zoldyck area, several high-ranking masters of the Kajin Empire royal family who were committed to fighting for the throne received this information. Several princes who were participating in the Eve festival left the banquet hall one after another and rushed towards their respective territories. In this BW, the high-ranking princes didn't have any fears. Whether it was the forces under the command of other princes or the ghosts and monsters in the lower ranks, the princes didn't care too much. And the main members of the Hunter Association who entered the Dark Continent also obeyed the rules and would not intervene in their succession battle. The only ticking time bomb is the Zoldyck family. Members of the Zoldyck family will not obey the unspoken rules between countries and act at will. This is what they must guard against. After seeing the power of Fischer, most of the high-ranking princes only wanted to fight the succession war, and had no intention of provoking the Zoldyck family. But if the Zoldicks make a move, they have to strategize accordingly. This battle of succession cannot be interrupted. After all, the strength of the members of the enemy family who entered the Dark Continent this time is really too strong. Much more terrifying than the power of the Hunter Association. Even without Fischer, just the other members brought by Fischer are enough to make them afraid. The power they wield is no match for the Zoldicks. As the king of the Kajin Empire, Nasby Huiguaru naturally knows the reactions of the princes and the situation of Killua and Shizuku who came out of the Zoldyck area. Nasby was very satisfied with the reactions of the princes. There are rules between guardian spirit beasts born in the same pot. 1. Spirit beasts will not kill each other. 2. They will not directly attack humans who are attached by spirit beasts. The beast that protects the future king must have the instinct of self-control. A beast with only sharp claws and fangs will easily become extinct. This is the same as human beings. Euphemistic methods are very important in political and military strategies. A leader who can't see the enemy's weakness is just a mediocrity. In the age of feudal lords, the ancestor who was the head of a small country that could be annexed by neighboring countries at any time created this pot. Choose out talented princes and let them fight for the throne to unify the country. so that today's big country is here. A spirit beast who is good at resources in the rear becomes a god of efficacies through a wise and talented king. This is the fate of the Huiguru family. Let's use this arc full of 200,000 tributes to create a new world to our heart's content. Looking at the many princes Huiguoxian who were gradually leaving the scene, his eyes were full of anticipation. I am full of expectations for the future king of the Kajin Empire. Once the War of Successors is over, the first challenge for the new king is to open up a new world and gain a firm foothold in the new world. For this reason, he gathered these 200,000 sacrifices, as a celebration of the birth of the new king of the Kajin Empire. As for the attitude of several high-ranking princes towards the Zoldyck family, this is also what Nasby is very satisfied with. If it were him, facing the Zoldyck family, he would have the same reaction and attitude. I don't need to be an enemy of the Zoldyck family, but I must keep abreast of the dynamics of the Zoldyck family and make corresponding strategies just in case. However, I hope the Zoldyck family doesn't cause too much turmoil. I thought so. But Nasby Huiguoru still had a headache about the existence of the Zoldyck family and the existence of Fischer. Because, shit, he's no balance against the power of the Zoldicks. Just hope those guys from the Zoldyck family don't make too much of a mess. Otherwise it is really troublesome. On the other side, Netero and others also came to the hall where Fischer was. A group of people entered here mightily. In addition to Netero, all the 12 earthly branches except Gale and Crook have gathered, and there are some other hunters. Mola and Nobu are among them, and there are several in the original book who were defeated in the chairman election. The nominated hunter exists. It's really strange that you, Jin, would be with the Hunter Association. Looking at Jin's sloppy appearance, Fischer responded with a shocked face. In response, the corners of Jin's eyes twitched, and he pouted in the direction of Netero. It means that if the old man is here, I will naturally be together. If the old man wasn't around, he probably would have to fly solo. After all, the other members of the 12 earthly branches are too weak for him to move. It's really terrifying. After entering here, the other hunters felt the aura of the main members of the Zoldyck family present, and they were all shocked. Fischer, Menthutheupi, Neferpitu, Gino, Silva, and others felt an extremely severe crisis from the 5 of Fischer. Except for Netero and Jin, the people present did not doubt the consequences of going against these people. That is death. Even Potter White, who claims to be the closest to Netero's strength of the 12 earthly branches, had this idea at this moment. Not paying attention to the shock of the hunters from the Hunter Association, Fischer directly asked what Netero meant by coming this time. Old man, why did you bring them here? Naturally let them communicate with each other. After all, we are already an alliance now, aren't we? Netero said, stroking his beard. That's true, then go find them individually. Kripika is in charge of intelligence. Grandpa and the others are in charge of defense. Crook is in charge of the creatures. Gailu is in charge of science. Fischer nodded in agreement after hearing this, and then introduced it to the hunters. Understood. Clarify the division of labor, and find the same allies to communicate with yourself. Netero also instructed the many beauties behind him. Many hunters nodded, and then found the same group and began to communicate. Chapter 210 Forming a team, and a different kind of prince. The exclusive personnel of the Zoldyck family and the Hunter Association are having a heated exchange, and even Palestine, the 6th son, is also communicating with Menchai, but the parties in charge of both parties are unusually quiet. Fischer, Netero, and Kim are sitting on a triangular sofa. What are you going to do after heading to the Dark Continent? Jin asked to break the silence between the three, looking at Fischer. What do you mean by that? Fischer was slightly taken aback when he heard the words, and then showed a puzzled expression. Don't play dumb. After you killed that dying man named Lemuel, this trip to the Dark Continent has become more dangerous than normal. Looking at Fischer's stupid look, Jin rolled his eyes and said directly, he is not a fool. This kind of thing can be deduced based on related things. If Fischer went to the Dark Continent alone, there would be no need to ask about such matters. But now, with so many people from the Zoldyck family coming, Fischer must be fully prepared. Otherwise, the biggest possibility waiting for the Zoldyck family is the destruction of the group. Jin's words are also what Netero wants to say. He is not a fool. Like Jin, he is curious about Fischer's approach. Becoming a god is an unattainable dream. Just a threshold of 5 million thoughts will stop him. When he was young, he might work hard to see if he could achieve this goal, and then try to become a god. But now, old, he no longer has this confidence. And Fischer didn't know how to do it at the beginning, and actually killed a god who was seriously injured. Even if he didn't know that the gods were eyeing Fischer, he knew that Fischer's situation in the Dark Continent would be very serious, and it was possible that he would be unable to move an inch. He was also very curious about what Fischer was going to do next. After all, he is still allied with the Zoldyck family dominated by Fischer. As for why the Zoldyck family chose to form an alliance after knowing what the Zoldyck family would face in the Dark Continent, it was because Netero could more or less guess how Fischer would deal with this matter. Sure enough, Fischer just shrugged casually in the face of this matter, and said what he guessed. What else can I do? When the time comes, I will act alone, and the others will join together," Fischer said lightly. This was the decision Fischer had already made when he decided to go to the Dark Continent after knowing that he had obtained the breath restraint technique. "Although I have the breath restraining technique, once I start fighting, my breath will definitely be exposed. Once the breath is exposed, it is very dangerous." On his own, with the breath containment technique, coupled with Fischer's current strength, he could escape the pursuit of the God Department no matter what. But with the rest of the Zoldyck family, then it's killing them. Therefore, from the moment he set foot on the BW Ark, Fischer has been using the breath restraint technique to completely restrain his breath, and not to have any contact with anyone present, in case the gods of the Dark Continent will follow the vines to find out members of the Zoldyck family. Sure enough, after listening to Fischer's answer, Jin and Nitaro had the same thought in their hearts. Because this is the best way they can think of. "I'll be with you then," Kim said to Fischer with a smile. "No, thank you very much, you are not a good bird, and there will definitely be some troubles with you around." Fischer refused Jin's invitation to form a team without thinking. Hey, you're going too far." After being rejected so easily by Fischer, Jin immediately lost his face and said dissatisfied. However, Fischer ignored it. This drove Jin a little crazy. Nitaro watched with a smile on the sidelines, and did not participate. "However, you're right, it's true that some moths are prone to occur on my body. Every time I go to develop those unknown ruins, the powerful monsters inside will come to me to fight for no reason. I feel like I have the physique of sucking beasts." After getting mad, Jin put his hands on the table, leaned on his chin, and muttered helplessly. "Huh?" Hearing Jin's muttering, Fischer raised his eyebrows. "You said that your physique can easily attract those powerful creatures?" Fischer narrowed his eyes and asked. "That's right. Every time the ruins are developed, they can attract powerful monsters that have nothing to do with the ruins. When I encounter this kind of monster, I can only fight it. Otherwise, why do you think my strength has improved so quickly?" Regarding his own situation, Jin had no intention of hiding it, and said in a tone of voice, "Accurate. It's just you. Let's form a team together when the Dark Continent arrives." Jin was upset, but Fischer's eyes sparkled when he heard Jin's situation, and he decided on the matter decisively. "This is not a moth. Hey. Seeking flowers. Eh? Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Jin was taken aback for a moment, then narrowed his eyes and looked at Fischer inquisitively, trying to see something from Fischer. However, Fischer's expression had calmed down at this time, and Jin did not see what Fischer's intentions were. How did Jin know that Fischer came to the Dark Continent this time to fight? For Jin's beast-absorbing physique, Fischer naturally welcomes it. "Although I don't know what your plan is, but since you said it, let's form a small team to explore the Dark Continent together." After observing for a long time, I still can't tell from Fischer's expression no matter what information came out. Jin also gave up, and simply agreed. "Your boy is still the same, you like to go where there is danger." Seeing Jin and Fischer set up a team, Nitaro said cheerfully. "By the way, Jin, your kid has joined the Zoldyck family, and he's here this time. Why don't you go find it?" Immediately, Nitaro thought of something and asked curiously. Kim gave Nitaro a disdainful look. "I sensed that Gigan was not here, and that guy's aura had left this area, so I came here on purpose." "Fischer, come here." At this moment, in a corner not far away, Ms. Iron, who was operating the computer, shouted at Fischer. Fischer heard this, got up and walked over. "What's the matter?" Coming to Miji's side, Fischer looked at the computer and asked Miji. "I detected just now that the fourth prince seems to have bad intentions for you. How should we deal with it?" Miji said lightly. "Hey, that guy, it's really not giving up." "I see, I will deal with it." Hearing this, Fischer was a little surprised, but then nodded, expressing that he knew and would deal with it. The attitudes of the several high-ranking princes towards Fischer were all unwilling to provoke, but obviously, some people's situation was different from others. That is the fourth prince of the Kajin Empire, Cheridnish Huiguru, the perverted beggar who was insulted by Kurapika and Fischer one after another. Chapter 211 Speculation. Fischer believed the funny words, because although this guy had a weird personality, he could still be trusted. Because this guy is greedy for life and afraid of death, and has an unknown fear of the head of the Zoldyck family. Dad Silva was afraid of Dad when he was the head of Zoldyck before, but now that Fischer has become the head of the house, the object of this guy's fear has shifted to Fischer. For Fischer, although Mija would talk back when he was talking because he was a peer, this guy also knew what to say and what to do. If this guy said so, then he was right. Fischer didn't expect that after being imprisoned by his own lightning that time, the Celadonian guy would dare to be aggressive towards him. With this character, every grievance must be retaliated, and he is somewhat desperate. Watch this guy, and report immediately if he makes any moves. If you do something about the 560 to the person who went out, immediately tell the person about the matter through the chat channel, and I will give you special contact permission. 8. Fischer told Miji. Okay. Miji nodded lightly and agreed. Speaking of which, that fellow Celadnish is a bit weird. I could clearly feel something different when I imprisoned that guy last time, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Now that I think about it, that guy's ability is a bit incredible. After giving the order, Fischer rubbed his chin and thought. When I clashed with Chilidnish in the palace of the Kajin Empire, when I used the lightning cage to imprison that guy, the guy was obviously on guard, and he seemed to have retreated a second before he released the lightning cage. Sign up. But for some reason, that guy gave up on retreating. Besides, that guy has been in an absolute state at that time. Is it his ability, able to predict the coming of danger for a short time? No, judging from the situation in which he was preparing to retreat, it seems that he didn't just foresee the danger. That guy's ability may be the same as the ability to predict the future obtained when he cultivated to the highest level. That guy should have seen the future, so he is going to retreat, trying to escape my lightning cage. However, after that, I should have seen a future that was more terrifying than being imprisoned in the thunder cage after I exited the thunder cage, so I gave up the chance to escape and chose to be imprisoned. After thinking about taking revenge on himself, Fischer recalled the scene when the fourth Prince Selidnish provoked him when he was in the Kajin Empire. When Fischer was at the banquet, Fischer noticed that Selidnish had learned earlier than the original book, and kept himself in a perfect state. But because he regards Selidnish as an ant, he doesn't care much. Now that I think about it, this guy's N doesn't seem to be underestimated. Those who activate N are mostly used by bursting mind energy. Furthermore, when N sensed the danger, the first thing he did was burst out his mind energy to prevent the danger from reaching him. But that guy didn't, and he still maintained the state of extreme. This is completely inconsistent with the mentality of N. No one will remain in a state of extreme after perceiving danger. This is suicidal, unless it is forced by the enemy to enter the state of extreme. Based on this, it is speculated that guy's prediction like N should be activated in an extreme state. Absolutely should be the precondition for activating this kind of N. In the chapter on the Dark Continent that Fischer read before crossing, there was no mention of Selidnish's N. I only know that this guy is a person with extraordinary talents. Perhaps because of his relationship with the guardian spirit beast, he can easily learn thought of chi. It has not revealed the N of this guy's cultivation. Fischer can only speculate based on some changes in contact with this guy. However, still felt that there should be no problem with his speculation. The possibility of the N of that fellow Selidnish being able to predict the future is very high, because Selidnish was in an extreme state at that time, and his physical fitness was not strong in all aspects. Even if he had predicted it in advance, he probably would not be able to escape the thunder and lightning cage. Moreover, even if he escaped the thunder and lightning cage, with his actions at the time, it is estimated that he would directly make up for it with a thunderbolt. He was imprisoned without any injuries, but was directly and seriously injured by lightning. As long as you are not a fool, anyone will make the first choice. Thinking of this, Fischer directly sent his speculation about Selidnish to the contact channel, and 8 called everyone's attention. I am in the Zoldyck area, and it is naturally impossible for Selidnish to break in, so the so-called revenge can only be left from the Zoldyck area and go out to Killua, Gun, Aluka, Shizuku, Michi, and Paknoten. People. And Shizuku is still employed by the 8th Princess Oit, and joined the Battle of the Prince's Succession this time. Obviously there is a great demand for this information. Soon, there were echoes in the chat channel, which meant understanding. After doing this, Fischer left Miji, returned to Nitaro and Jin, and communicated with them about the situation in the Dark Continent. Fischer has never been to the Dark Continent, and he only learned a little about the situation in the Dark Continent from the book Journey to the New World, East, but not much. But Nitaro and Gold are different. One is a man who has entered the Dark Continent twice in a row, and the other is a descendant of Dong Freaks, the travel recorder of the New World. He should have a better understanding of the situation in the Dark Continent. Communicating with the two of them definitely has a huge harvest. On the other side, Killua, Gun, and Aluka left the Zoldyck area and immediately started the bear child attribute and ran around. And the 3 of Shizuku also successfully reunited with the 8th princess. At this time, in the territory of the first prince, the first prince was talking with his subordinates. Have you found out where they are going? Benjamin Huiguru asked his personal soldier Captain Baloshimayuk about the movement trend of the people from the Zoldyck family. The 4th and 5th sons of the Zoldyck family and their companion, J Freaks, seem to have gone to a lower level area. The purpose is not clear, but it is mostly for fun. The direct butlers of the Zoldyck family, Shizuku, Murasaki, Michi Kamishini, and Paknoten entered the 8th Princess Oit 5.4. And they should have received. We have a few more difficult opponents. Private Soldier Captain Baloshimayuk reported aloud. 8th Princess Oit. Why did the direct butler of the Fischer family choose to be employed by that guy? Hearing such an answer, Benjamin Huiguru was a little unwilling, because he also had a team from the Zoldyck family to issue a commission, but the people of the Zoldyck family chose to inherit the victory. Almost 013 princes. Regarding this, the subordinates were all silent. The witty and resourceful Baloshimayuk also had nothing to say, because facing the Zoldyck family, he really didn't know what kind of plan he could make to deal with it. Continue to gather intel on the Zoldyck family and avoid conflict. The 14th prince will deal with it at the end. Benjamin also knew that this matter was very troublesome, so he had to put it aside temporarily, so he gave an order to his subordinates. Chapter 212, The Reaction of the Upper Princes. At the same time, a similar scene took place in another room. The proud and domineering second princess of the Kajin Empire was venting her displeasure by smashing all kinds of furniture in the room. Why does the Zoldyck family have a crush on that guy? That guy who was born just a few days ago. Camilla growled while throwing things. From the first time she saw Fischer, Camilla was attracted by Fischer. The unparalleled charm of Fischer fascinated Camilla. After that, whenever she has free time, Camilla has only Fischer's face in her mind, almost to the point of obsession. Also because she wanted to interact with Fischer, Camilla, like Benjamin, also issued a commission to the Zoldyck family. But a week has passed, and Camilla has not received news of the Zoldyck family's acceptance of the commission. The Zoldyck family did not accept any entrustment from the princes of the Kajin Empire, which made Camilla unhappy but also a little happy. Unwillingly, the Zoldyck family did not accept their entrustment, but happily, they did not accept their own entrustment, and the enemy-beating expert family did not accept the entrustment of other masters either. But in 2009, just after the Eve festival started, someone from the Zoldyck family accepted the commission. It was all about slapping her face hard several times, and even pouring cold water on her face several times, which directly made her feel cold. Your Highness, Patriarch Fischer said that he would not restrain his direct steward. This situation does not mean Patriarch Fischer. Not far away, one of Camilla's subordinates reminded him. Since the family dinner a week ago, Camilla's changes have been noticed by her subordinates. These subordinates all knew that Camilla fell in love with Fischer at first sight, and was very obsessed with Fischer, and because of her obsession with Fischer, Camilla's personality changed a lot, which they were happy to see. The unruly and willful character before made them feel a little trembling when getting along with Camilla, and they prefer the current Camilla's character. But now, after hearing that several of Fischer's direct butlers were hired by the 8th Princess Oit, the character of their master and others has faintly changed back to the original state, which they naturally don't want. So someone opened his mouth to remind him. That's right. Fischer said that he would not care about the actions of his subordinates. All of this should not be based on Fischer's orders. I'm going to find Fischer. After being reminded by her subordinates, Camilla immediately reacted, murmured a few words to herself, and then walked outside. Seeing this, a group of subordinates hurriedly followed. They didn't dare to let Camilla run around alone, because, just now, the king's order has been issued, and the battle of succession has officially begun. It is very dangerous for Camilla to run around alone, and she may be killed by other princes at any time. Not to mention Camilla, the third Prince Jolie seemed very calm after hearing that Shizuku and the other three were employed by the 8th princess. And in another room, where Selignish was. In the room, after getting the Zoldyck family members to leave the Zoldyck area, Selignish gradually raised the corners of his mouth, forming an arc. Is it finally out? Interesting. Keep an eye on Killua's Zoldyck's side. Then call all the N. Selignish ordered to his men. After knowing the existence of the N, Selignish used this month to secretly gather some N, as well as the underworld organization AI's family. Yes, Chalidnish's subordinates responded, and then used the phone to contact them. I can't handle you, but can't I handle the rest of the Zoldyck family? Fischer Zoldyck, I will let you know that those who offend me will never end well. In these few months, I will play with you slowly. Just enjoy it. Chalidnish whispered to himself while his subordinates were on the phone. But what he didn't know was that all of this was completely discovered by the spy who was monitoring him. Chalidnish's words were actually overheard by Magi through his subordinates who were on the phone, which led to the previous conversation between Magi and Fischer. The 5th Prince Derpa also had a situation similar to that of the eldest Prince Benjamin. The 5th Prince Derpa was also very unwilling to be entrusted by the direct steward of the Zoldyck family to choose the 8th Princess Oit, and made the same choice as Benjamin, excluding the 14th prince. As for the actions of the princes, Nasby Huiguaru paid attention to them all. After knowing the actions of the princes, Nasby, who was originally optimistic about the 4th Prince Chalidnish, was very disappointed at this time. Have you been dazzled by anger and lost your grasp of the situation? You actually chose to attack the Zoldyck family? Nasby Huiguaru whispered inwardly after listening to the report. He was very pleased with the choice of Benjamin and Derpa. If it were him, after facing Fischer's terrifying strength, he would have made the same choice. Solve the others first, and then figure out how to deal with the last 14 princes. However, the 4th Prince Chalidnish, who was originally very optimistic, seemed very disappointed at this time. After knowing Fischer's strength, Chalidnish chose to deal with Fischer because of the previous humiliation. This is completely like lighting a lamp in a latrine, looking for shit. If you want to deal with the enemy, you need at least equal strength. No matter how bad it is, you can't differ too much in level. Compared with Fischer, Chalidnish is completely the difference between heaven and earth. You are dealing with other members of the 233 family of the Zoldyck family, and they are not the direct stewards of the Zoldyck family, but members of the clan. This will definitely anger Fischer and make Fischer act desperately. After all, it is very clear from the limited information collected by Schörner. This year's Zoldyck family Fischer Zoldyck is very important to the family members. But what does that Camilla guy want to do? Actually went to the Zoldyck family. That guy has changed a lot in recent days. Is he planning something? After commenting on the first prince, the fifth prince, and the fourth prince, Nasby thought about the significance of Camilla's actions. Has this guy not given up on joining forces with the Zoldyck family? However, even if you really join forces, the price will be extremely huge. Camilla, can you afford it? Nasby Huigiru murmured inwardly. Nasby didn't know how the 8th princess invited the Zoldyck family, but he knew that with Camilla's character, if she really invited the Zoldyck family, the scale would definitely be large and the price paid would definitely not be small. As for the year fan who suddenly attacked the Nyan beast of the Prince of the Kajin Empire before, Nasby still doesn't know what happened. Because eel fans have a very clear purpose since they got on the BW number, so they went directly to the lower level. Chapter 213 Meeting Hisoka again, leading the snake out of the hole. Killua, why did Brother Fischer suddenly send that information just now? At this time, in the 3rd floor, Killua, Gun, and Aluka were walking through the huge hall, and Gun asked a little puzzled. Brother will publish the information about that guy. Most likely that guy has plans to deal with us, so he wants us to be careful. Next, we must be very cautious. Killua knew Fischer very well, and after Fischer told the information, he quickly understood what Fischer meant, and answered Gun's question very easily. Eh? Why, we didn't offend that guy, did we? Gun was suddenly puzzled. I don't even need to think about it. It must be a festival with the Zoldyck family. Faced with Gun's foolish question, Killua couldn't help but roll his eyes. Your brain is really stupid sometimes. Gun's a fool, he. Alukan on the side followed with a smile. Gun was also very embarrassed when he heard this, scratched his head and laughed dryly. Indeed, if there is no conflict, how can others come to trouble yourself and others for no reason? However, the initial conflict was unprovoked. However, to be honest, there are so many people here. In order to ease his embarrassment, Gun scanned the hall and sighed. Well, there are indeed many. After all, there are 200,000 people on this BW this time. There are at least 10,000 to 20,000 people in this hall. Killua also looked at the densely populated hall and said, huh? Just as Killua finished speaking, Gun suddenly sniffed his nose. What's wrong? Killua wondered after noticing the change in Gun's expression. The smell of Hisoka is here, Gun replied, and ran out. Forehead. This guy's nose is really weird. Hearing Gun's answer, Killua's face froze, and he said speechlessly, and then he followed Aluka's hand. Soon, Gun stopped next to a burly man. The big man glanced at Gun, and then a very magnetic voice came out of his mouth. So it was you. As soon as the voice fell, the big man raised his hand to his face, stretched out his hand and tore off a huge piece of paper from head to toe, revealing the appearance inside. It was Hisoka. Wow, it's really you, Hisoka. At this time, Killua also brought Aluka here, and Killua opened his mouth in surprise. Yeah, it looks like you're having a good time. Hisoka greeted the two with a smile, holding a poker card in his hand. Why are you here, Hisoka? Gun nodded, then asked directly. I am a little interested in the Dark Continent, and I heard that you are also participating in this grand event, so I came here. Hisoka said evilly. Hey, you guys are still thinking about Gun. Be careful of the gutter overturning. Gun is not the Gun before. Even if it's you, it's hard to beat Gun. Killua curled her lips and said unhappily. This guy, still staring at Gun until now, made Killua feel uncomfortable that Hisoka was fighting with him for his beloved. I don't need you to tell me that. I can tell just by looking at how solid the chi on your body is. The two of you have improved a lot during this period of time. How about it, Gun? Do you want to fight with me? Hearing Killua's sarcasm, Hisoka didn't care at all, but sent Gun an invitation to fight. Ahaha. Gun didn't respond, just rubbed the back of his head and laughed awkwardly. Speaking of which, did the two of you offend someone? It always feels like someone is watching you. Seeing that Gun didn't fight back, Hisoka didn't force it. Instead, he glanced around and said with some doubts. Just now, from the moment he met Gun, Hisoka felt a faint sight, which was hidden very subtly. Even he only felt it, but couldn't find it. You feel it? As expected of Hisoka, the perception is really good. Hearing this, Killua was a little surprised, and then praised with a smile. He also just felt that sight, but he has been unable to be sure. Well, after all, my senses are very keen. Hisoka stretched, revealing his seductive figure, and said with a smile. Eh? Is the? Gun didn't feel the gaze from the two at all. Put your body's senses at the lowest level. Don't try to perceive them deliberately. Things will be reversed at the extreme. At this time your senses will be magnified many times, and you will be able to feel the incomparably hidden line of sight. If there is nothing, the guy watching us is a professional, and only killers like me and Hisoka can vaguely notice it. Vertical bar with your talent. You should be able to feel it if you work hard, said Killua in a low voice. Oh, then I'll try. Gun nodded upon hearing this, then closed his eyes and prepared to test according to the method Killua said. However, as soon as he closed his eyes, Gun was directly brainstormed by Killua. You idiot, aren't you telling the watchers that there is something wrong with us here? Maybe it will reveal the fact that we have noticed him. A brain collapsed on Gun's forehead, and Killua growled at Gon, who was covering his forehead with a puzzled expression. Oh. Hearing this, Gon came to his senses and started experimenting again. This time, he did not close his eyes, but stared straight ahead. Killua, forget it. This guy is the first experiment after all, so it's fine. Killua, really, I feel that, good Zhao, gaze on us from time to time. Within a few seconds, Gon whispered excitedly to Killua. That's it. Killua nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. It's not easy to talk here, and those guys won't make casual moves in this kind of place. Let's get out of here. Let's lead the snake out of the hole. At this moment, Hisoka spoke, and suggested to the two of them. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, Killua said with a sneer in his eyes and a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Then let's go, Hisoka also said with a faint smile. Gon nodded too. A group of people left the hall and walked towards the corridor in the direction of the living area. At the same time, on the ceiling of the hall, a tiny crack quietly opened. In the darkness, a pair of eyes fixed on the four people of Killua who were leaving the hall. Hee. Are you finally leaving? You can prepare to start. Chapter 214 Silva's intention to control B-W. Huh? You want to join forces with the Zoldyck family? In the living room of the Zoldyck area, Fischer stared at Camilla, who was sitting opposite him, surprised by his words. For Camilla's so-called cooperation, Fischer is naturally clear, because Camilla has already confessed everything. This guy wants to marry himself, the Kajin Empire and the Zoldyck family. The protagonists of the marriage are him and Camilla. With this marriage in exchange for the help of the Zoldyck family, Camilla won the succession battle this time and became the new king of the Kajin Empire. Yes, that's what Camilla meant. Fischer, what do you think? Camilla nodded firmly, but her eyes were full of expectation. No, I don't want it. Fischer's eyes turned into dead fish eyes, his left hand kept swinging in front of him, and he refused politely. He doesn't want this kind of political marriage. Moreover, Camilla's character is not his favorite type. The second princess of the Kajin Empire has an extremely egotistical personality and is not easy to get along with. Why? Hearing Fischer's refusal without consideration, 640 Camilla couldn't accept it. Even if she refused after thinking about it for a while, she also accepted it, because her request was very sudden, without any warning, and she would not have been able to accept it herself. But Fischer's move of rejecting without even thinking about it, she really didn't expect it. I think it's okay. However, at this moment, Silva, who was standing not far away from the wall, suddenly spoke up, agreeing to Camilla's proposal. When Camilla heard this, she was taken aback for a moment, and then she showed joy. Hey, Dad, don't meddle in this matter. Fischer complained to Silva because he was in a bad mood. Dad is so worried about his marriage. When I was at home before, I made my own opinions, and this time it happened again. It's not that I'm not wanted by anyone, and several housekeepers directly under me are staring at me now, and I'm sure I'll be eaten to the bone when I grow up. Now Dad is here again. Fischer, if the Zoldyck family wants to grow, marriage is very necessary. It's the same with me and your mother. The combination of me and Kajchka gave the Zoldyck family control of a part of Meteor Street. If you can unite with Camilla, then the Zoldyck family and the Kajin Empire will become an unbreakable alliance. You, as the head of the house, are duty-bound to this point. Facing Fischer's complaint, Silva said flatly. Although the Zoldyck family has entered the Dark Continent now, the foundation is still on the human side. Being able to give the Zoldyck family an additional ally is also a favorable choice. Fischer, thank you very much, Master Silva. Fischer was speechless, but Camilla thanked Silva with joy. Let's go, I'll help you in this succession battle. Silva nodded slightly, and then walked towards the gate, saying as he walked, Yes, Lord Nampa. Camilla responded quickly. Later, Camilla turned her attention to Fischer. Fischer, no matter what you think, the main purpose of my coming to find you this time is not the succession battle, but to be with you. I hope you will give me a chance. Taking a deep breath, Camilla said firmly. After speaking, Camilla quickly left the room and followed Silva. In the living room, Fischer was left alone. Camilla's performance is very similar to that of Pam. She should be attracted by the charm of my sweet fruit ability. Leave her alone. However, what is Dad planning to do? It stands to reason that the top management of V5 has been controlled by eel fans, and the power of the Zoldyck family has become unprecedentedly strong. Why bother? Do you want to prepare an extra hole card for the Zoldyck family? Sitting on the sofa, Fischer rested his chin, silently thinking about his father's intentions. However, soon Fischer knew what Dad Silva was thinking, because Dad Silva sent his thoughts to his private channel through the chat channel. Although Meiji can control the BW, he only controls the network on this arc to prevent others from harming us. In fact, this arc is still under the control of the Kajin Empire. For the succession war, I have an ominous premonition. I feel that if the succession war continues to develop, it will cause the riots of the entourage this time. It will be detrimental to our march into the Dark Continent. It is necessary to truly control the number B-W. I can see that the second princess of the Kajin Empire has a high opinion of you, and seems to be devoted to you. Why? So I want her to be the new king, to control the BW, so that this trip to the Dark Continent can arrive smoothly. Perhaps you can control Nasby Huiguru with your twisting power. but you can't be sure about the ability of its guardian spirit beast. There are many uncertainties in controlling Nasby Huiguru on this Arkansas. This time Camilla came to the door, just rightly using Camilla's power to control the Arkansas. At that time, even Nasby Huiguru will have nothing to say. After reading the message sent by his father Silva, Fischer sighed slightly. He naturally knew that the succession battle of the princes of the Kajin Empire would cause great turmoil on the Arkansas. After all, this guy Xinbi Huiguru originally regarded people as sacrifices in this battle of succession. However, Fischer didn't care much about this. Fischer's idea was to make the best use of everything and let Shizuku and the others deal with the prince's private soldiers. As for who will win at that time, Fischer doesn't care. Anyway, as long as the prince who wins is not the fourth prince who has a problem with himself, it will be fine. Fischer really never thought about controlling the BW to ensure the smooth progress of this trip. In the end, Dad thought so. Forget it. If Dad wants to move his hands and feet, let him go. However, I have to let my father beat the man and leave it to Shizuku to clean up. It can't be wasted. Thinking of this, Fischer directly sent a message to Dad Silva on the private chat channel. On the other side, Killua and others who left the hall with Hisoka finally ushered in their enemies. Both ends of the corridor were blocked by two groups of people. Is it so blatant to appear? It's really interesting. Glancing back and forth between the two groups of people, Hisoka licked his lips, showing a wicked smile. Chapter 215 Gun's shocking power. Cruel massacre. Seeing the people approaching in the corridors on both sides, the four of Killua were extremely vigilant. At a certain moment, Gun suddenly closed his eyes, took a deep breath, then opened his eyes suddenly, and shouted, "Killua, get ready to defend." Okay. Hearing Gun's words, Killua was taken aback for a moment, and then he understood something, and shouted in a low voice. Immediately, powerful lightning burst out from his body, directly enveloping himself and Aluka. As for Hisoka, he didn't know why Gun said that, but after seeing Killua's reaction, he raised his defense to the highest level without hesitation. He knew that there must be a reason for Killua to do this, and he did not release such a powerful lightning to defend. Then it means that what will happen next is no small matter. So Hisoka didn't dare to take Gun's words as a child's play at all, and arranged for himself the most powerful defense. Sure enough, in the next moment, an extremely powerful aura erupted from Gun's body. Seeing the aura on Gun's body, Hisoka's eyes revealed astonishment, because he noticed that wherever Gun's aura is wrapped, the space is matched. This shocked Hisoka. It's not relying on any strange space, but relying on pure power to shatter the space. The power of this guy's explosion should not be so strong. Hisoka felt very incredible in his heart at this time. However, he no longer had the time to think about what was going on, because Gun has exploded. The huge thought energy swept towards the surroundings, and its speed was already close to the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, it had spread to the enemies on both sides of the corridor, and wherever it passed, the space was shattered, and the corridor collapsed instantly. Gun's thoughts spread too fast, and the two groups of people who were walking towards Killua and the others had no time to react, and they were caught in an instant. In an instant, there were only 6 of the 14 people in the two groups. The other 8 people were directly torn to pieces the moment they came into contact with Gun's mind energy. Torn into pieces by the shattered space, blood stained the entire corridor. Only those 6 were lucky enough to escape the catastrophe because they were standing behind, but they were still affected, were sent flying out, and smashed directly into the wall. This is exactly how Gun uses the Zenzen fruit, merging the power of the Zenzen fruit with his own mind energy, so that every strand of his mind energy has the vibration power of the Zenzen fruit. Moreover, Gun has been developed to the point where it can shatter space. Moreover, in order to maximize the ability of the shaking fruit, Gun also specially learns advanced skill of using circle. Different from Whitebeard Edward Newgate's ability development of the shaking fruit, the power of the shaking fruit developed by Gun is combined with the circle move. Because of the relationship between his aggressive enhancer Nyanki, this move is more powerful than Rybeard's shaking fruit ability is more powerful. After the power of Edward Newgate's shaking fruit spreads out, the power will gradually decrease as the distance gets farther and further away. As for Gun's move, as long as it is within the range of the circle, its power will not be weakened. Moreover, with the blessing of the enhancer Nyanchi, its power is stronger than the normal power of the shaking fruit in the equivalent shaking power. Just like the blow just now, even people will habitually wrap themselves with Nyanchi defense, especially the cold air defense that has been prepared for battle just now, which is more defensive than when there is no battle. But it was still torn to pieces after touching Gun's shocking force. Hey, what a powerful force. This power is the power of vibration. It actually tore apart the space directly. After defending against Gun's power of vibration, Hisoka showed a look of surprise, and his face gradually became abnormal. Perverted by Gun's great strength. Now he can't wait to have a life and death battle with Gun. However, Hisoka endured it, because of the current situation. They were the one being targeted. If you want to fight, you have to wait until the enemy is eliminated. These guys are the real deal. This level of trouble came here to trouble us. Killua looked at the bloody corridor at this time, and curled his lips with a look of disdain. He thought how powerful the subordinates of the fourth prince of the Kajin Empire were. As a result, One face-to-face was tornado by Gun's shocking force. Then, leave the remaining 3 here to me, okay? After complaining, Killua looked at the 3 survivors who had suffered a lot of trauma not far away, and turned to Gun without looking back. Said, "Of course." Gun replied with a grin. "Then, the 3 here will be handed over to me." Hisoka also spoke at this time, looked at the 3 survivors who came down from the wall, licked his lips, smiled evilly, and said, "Okay, I'm counting on you, Aluka." Upon receiving Gun's reply, Killua dropped a sentence, and instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed out. Seeking flowers. "Well, leave it to me." Gun nodded in response, then walked to Aluka's side and protected Aluka. And Hisoka also threw out the poker cards in his hand, and then galloped out. Whether it is the current Killua or Hisoka, they are the best among the strong among them. In contrast, although the members of the AI family who served for the 4th prince of the Kajin Empire were also their strength was very weak. Although each is very weird, but in the face of killers like Killua and Hisoka, then can't be played at all. In less than 2 minutes, the remaining 6 people were eliminated by Killua and Hisoka. What a terrifying power. At the same time, Illumi, who was closest to Killua and Gun when the members of AI's family surrounded him, was hiding in his own space at this time. He was terrified and sweating profusely. He is the closest to Killua and Gun, because his allows him to hide and get close to others at will. He was right on top of Killua and Gun at the time. Gun released the power of the shock. He was the first to feel its power and the most terrifying. If he hadn't immediately revoked his ability after sensing it and hid in his own space, he would have been the same as other companions. But now, when he snooped again, he found that all the companions who came to do the work this time were wiped out. This made him extremely terrified. This is the horror of a Zoldyck family. Why did Lord Saradnish make an enemy of this monster? No, I have to send back the information here as soon as possible. Illumi was frightened and collapsed at this time. I dare not take any action against Killua and others. He just wanted to report everything that happened here to the team leader of AI's family. However, just as he was about to use N to go back to organize the base, he suddenly heard Gun's voice. "Now there is only one person left. Let me solve it." Hearing this, Illumi's heart trembled suddenly, and a gust of cold air rushed to the soles of his feet and rushed straight to Tanling Gai. Sure enough, the next moment, he felt a powerful force coming from his N space. There was a crack in the wall of his N room, which caused Illumi's pupils to constrict suddenly. It's tiny. Chapter 216. Killua ready to exterminate. With such weak strength, who gave them the confidence to provoke us? Killua looked very puzzled after kicking the corpse under his feet. Could this be the subordinate of the 4th prince? Gun was also puzzled and said suspiciously, "Sarah, it's possible. These guys should be an organization working for the 4 princes of the Kajin Empire. Since you have made a move against us, then just erase it. I've had a chat earlier to see if we can find out the organization base of these guys. Let's take over this organization." Killua shrugged and said casually. Immediately after that, they contacted the second child, Miji, on the contact channel. With so many people together, it can be seen that there is an organization. Moreover, it should be an organization that worked for Kilidonish Huiguru, the son of the 4th king of the Kajin Empire 647. Now that this organization has taken action against the 3 of them, this organization can't say that it is the young master of the Zoldyck family if it doesn't become popular. After all, the Zoldyck family is almost all revenge. However, now I and others are completely unclear about the attacker. If you want to find the attacker and find the organization of the attacker, it is best to attack early. This guy has already begun to gradually control the network of B-middle.W, so it is easy to control the powerful forces on this Arkansas. Hey, second child, help me find out which organization is attacking us, and tell me the base of that organization after you find it. Killua made a joke on the chat channel. Don't bother me with such small things. I'm still working hard to master all the networks of B-middle.W. Soon, a funny voice came from the chat channel. Mikai is very upset that Killua interrupted his work, but Killua's request was not denied. While Killua was waiting for the ridiculous information, here, Hisoka sent Gun an invitation to fight again. Gun, let's play a game. You have grown into a ripe red apple, and there is no need to cultivate it anymore. I've been waiting impatiently for this moment. Hisoka challenged Gun excitedly. Gun, however, lacked interest in it. Sorry, Hisoka, I don't want to fight with you right now. Gun directly refused. This made Hisoka's face stiffen immediately, but soon recovered. Why don't you fight? You probably want to fight with me too, Hisoka asked strangely. Well, not now. I guess there are a lot of things to do recently. I'll find you when I'm free, okay? Gun nodded and replied. Ah, is that so? In that case, so be it. I'll wait for your news. Although he couldn't wait for the battle with Gun, Hisoka was still very gracious, just dropped a sentence, and left here. Speaking of which, after coming here, I was entrusted by eel fans to help eel fans collect some wilden. If I had known that the 3 just now would have been merciful, there would be only one person in this way. I knew this guy would invite you to fight. Killua looked at Hisoka's leaving back and pouted contemptuously. Although they are both killers, Killua's reaction to Hisoka is not very good, and his senses are not very good because this guy is thinking about Gun all the time, which is Killua's reverse scale. Hisoka is still a good person, isn't he? You helped us deal with the enemy just now. Gun spoke for Hisoka. Without this guy, the two of us can handle it, Killua said lightly, holding his hands behind his back. That's true. But at least he did lend a helping hand. Killua said it doesn't need to be done. Soon, ridiculous information came over. Found it. Let's go now. Killua looked at the message on the chat channel and said to Gun, then let's go quickly. Hearing this, Gun nodded fiercely. Gun doesn't want to let go of these guys who are a threat to him. Following Miji's instructions, a group of 3 quickly rushed to Ai's residence. The power I gave just now is back all at once. Have all the guys sent out just now been dealt with? It seems that the strength of those 2 brats is terrifying. The leader of Ai's family, Myurina Plutton, the second-tier member, had a gloomy expression at this moment. There were only 23 members of Ai's family including her, but this time they sent out 16 of them. But all of them died at once. In other words, there are only 7 of them left. This was a devastating blow to the A family. With a loss of 16, the AI family couldn't control the 3rd floor at all. How's the situation? Just as Myurina was troubled by this incident, the 4th prince of the Kajin Empire walked in with a few bodyguards. I'm very sorry, Your Highness the 4th prince. The opponents we sent out this time have all been eliminated. Myurina replied truthfully. Hey, it seems that he is indeed a very powerful opponent. Myurina, give me the position of Killua's Zoldyck, and I will meet this guy in person. The 4th prince of the Kajin Empire, Selibnish, was very surprised by this news. But he didn't punish Myurina. Instead he got the location of Killua and the others with Myurina and then turned and left. 5.0 on the other side, in order to marry Fischer and Camilla, Silva, who has mastered the Kajin Empire and the number BW, has already brought Camilla to face off with the eldest Prince Benjamin of the Kajin Empire. With just one meeting, Silva directly defeated the prince's personal army. Several N were seriously injured and unable to move, and most of the rest of the N people also suffered quite a lot of injuries. How can this prince be inferior to this bitch, Silva? Benjamin asked Silva with a gloomy face. Camilla chose to marry Fischer. The Kajin Empire is married to the Zoldyck family, so I am going to facilitate this, Silva said lightly, and then broke out without saying a word. The battle begins again. Chapter 217 Nasby who changed his mind. Why would Silva Zoldyck meddle in this matter? Sitting on the sofa in the same room, Nasby's face was extremely gloomy. When he got Camilla to go to the Zoldyck area to find the Zoldyck family, he already had some background. But his previous guess was that even if Camilla invited the Zoldyck family, at most, he only invited some subordinates of the Zoldyck family. Unexpectedly, Silva, who was the predecessor of the family, suddenly ended up. If it's just assassination, then there's no problem. But the point is, now is the succession battle of their Kajin Empire. Earlier, he invited Fischer to a banquet, and he made a request to Fischer in the hope that the Zoldyck family would not intervene in the succession battle because of this. After being rejected by Fischer unceremoniously, Nasby still held that Fischer would not intervene, so even if other members of the Zoldyck family intervened, it was nothing. At most, it will make the battle of succession develop in a direction that he can't predict in 09. But now, Silva started, everything changed. The nature has changed. Silva, the previous head of the Zoldyck family, took action, which means that the Zoldyck family has fully participated in this battle of succession. In the name of the Zoldyck family, it intervenes in the affairs of the Kajin Empire. Your Majesty, according to Silva's Zoldyck, the second Prince Camilla is married to the Zoldyck family, and the married person is the current head of the family, Fischer Zoldyck. At this time, the report from his subordinates came from the earphone. This made Nasby stunned for a moment, and the next moment, Nasby's eyes flickered. A marriage? I have no problem with this, but the heirs they give birth must be inherited by someone who will inherit the Kajin Empire. Hearing that this was the reason why Camilla asked Silva to move, Nasby immediately changed his previous gloom, and his face became calm, even with a slight joy. He's taken to the Zoldyck family genes. The egg in the pot ceremony, to put it bluntly, is to raise Gu. Let many princes swallow the eggs that appeared in the pot, and evolve into spirit beasts, and then let the princes kill each other, and then many spirit beasts merge to complete the winner. Let the winner the strength of those who have become stronger. The ability of the new king can also be seen in the succession battle. After all, a prince with weak ability cannot survive. Putting aside the ability to govern the country, in terms of strength, the Kajin Empire is the effort of several generations, and the continuous integration of excellent genes has made the royal family of the Kajin Empire even better. In the Zoldyck family, strong men were born from generation to generation, especially in this generation. There were too many strong men. Its genes are absolutely excellent. If Camilla can marry someone from the Zoldyck family and give birth to offspring with more powerful genes, making some of them descendants of the Kajin Empire, then it is not unacceptable for the Zoldyck family to intervene in this succession battle. This time the Eve festival, although the Zoldyck family did not participate, But he also met with the Zoldyck family. This generation of the Zoldyck family includes the previous generation, and the patriarchs of the previous generation. None of them are simple. Even the youngest black-haired boy gave him a faint sense of crisis. Once they fight, he dare not say that he can win steadily. All this made Nasby Huiguru understand how excellent the genes of the Zoldyck family are. It is the best proof that my decades of hard work are not as good as others' hard work for a few years. If Camilla really got on the line with the Zoldyck family, and won the succession battle, and later gave birth to an heir with Fischer Zoldyck, let one of the heirs inherit the Kajin Empire in the future. Then Camilla becoming the new king is not a bad thing. The concept of succession in the Kajin Empire is different from ours. Women can also become kings, and their descendants can still inherit. Just like a certain country, the queen, otherwise there will be no female princes joining the succession battle. On the other hand, being able to join forces with a Zoldyck family is also a good political ability. If this is the case, then the egg in a pot ceremony can be abandoned. Rubbing his fat double chin, Nasby whispered to himself. Although he is the beneficiary of the egg in pot ceremony, he doesn't want his children to kill each other. After all, the egg in pot ceremony is for the prince who chooses powerful genes to inherit the throne. Now that Camilla, the Zoldyck family, and Fischer are on the line, and they are preparing to marry, then this ability has already surpassed their Kajin Empire by so much generations' achievements. After all, Fischer's growth lies there. There is such a terrifying power in his teens. Isn't this situation enough to explain? Once the two are combined to give birth to an heir, they will definitely be the best existence in this world. Once Camilla's affairs are really successful, then the egg in a pot ceremony doesn't need to exist. Because there is no need to raise Gyukaka, the successors of the Golden Empire will become very powerful. It just needs to develop strong political and military strategic capabilities. However, this decision should start with the next generation. This is the only way for this generation. Contemplating, Nasby no longer paid any attention to the battle of succession, because even if he was the king, he couldn't stop the egg in the pot ritual. Those spirit beasts born from the eggs in the pot will kill each other when the time comes, even if the host does not act, until only the last prince remains. Standing up from the sofa, Nasby left the room and walked in a certain direction. The bodyguard standing at the door hurriedly followed, and the place Nasby was going to was the Zoldyck area. Since the Zoldyck family has this intention, he is also ready to directly implement this matter. The Zoldyck family and the Kajin Empire married and gave birth to powerful children. Naturally, Pixel didn't know about this matter. At this time, Fischer was communicating with Netero about the Dark Continent. Among the many descriptions of the Dark Continent, what Fischer cares most about is Netero's report on the Dark Continent after he went to the Dark Continent. Because Netero's coverage of the Dark Continent is really too huge this time. Huge creatures, huge plants, everything is huge. The Dark Continent is different from the human kingdom, which also has huge vegetation and magical beasts, but there is a world of difference between the two. The huge creature in Netero's mouth, in Fischer's view, is the monster power of the Dark Continent. The monsters living here are definitely very powerful, and they are Fischer's goals. Chapter 218, Decision. This trip to the Dark Continent, Fischer's goal is to find a powerful existence to fight and continue to upgrade the favor. As for finding the longevity thing and the Kiwi mother plant to improve the body, Fischer handed it over to Guile and the others. It is impossible for me to go all the way with them. After all, his body has already been marked by those guys. Hanging out with the Zoldycks would do them harm. Since half a month ago, Fischer has been keeping himself in a state of extreme, slowly dispelling the atmosphere of getting along with his father and the others, just so as not to implicate others. And for the past half-month, Fischer has been guarded by Neferpitou. In the state of extreme, Fischer's strength is greatly weakened, almost none of them exist. And this one is because of Fischer's own physique. Just using the power of the body, Shell is stronger than the cold ability master. When the Dark Continent begins, Fischer will part ways with the Zoldyck family and let them explore by themselves to find their respective opponents. However, in the final analysis, whether Fischer can use powerful enemies to improve his strength on the Dark Continent this time is still uncertain. Although he obtained the breath containment technique from the system, even the gods cannot detect his own breath after using this ability. However, it is impossible to use the breath containment technique in battle. Once a battle breaks out, Fischer's aura will definitely be exposed. After all, Fischer's trip to the Dark Continent this time is full of uncertainties. However, if it is really impossible to use the battle to increase the favor, then Fischer can only return to the Zoldyck family and his party to explore and be a teleporter. Magic middle dot flicker does not burst out with a powerful breath, but it is silent, and it will not be discovered if it is used. As for combat, unless it is absolutely necessary, it cannot be done. However, let's talk about it. But this does not prevent Fischer from Netero to learn about these situations. How much do you like fighting? Jin's face was covered with black lines as he watched Fischer chasing Netero and asking whether powerful monsters existed. Those who come to the Dark Continent are not here to explore all the inconceivable substances here, but Fischer, it seems, is here to fight. Huh? What's the matter? can't you?" Fischer looked over suspiciously. "He came to the Dark Continent to find a powerful opponent to fight. Is that wrong?" "That's right." "Well, yes. But why don't you just focus on this?" "There are many incredible existences in the Dark Continent. Compared with fighting and fighting, it is more interesting to explore these existences. For example, the uninhabited city is very interesting, isn't it? You know, it's a city. Although I don't know if it was built by humans, the possibility is very high. Of course, it is also possible that it was built by humanoid creatures. But these mysteries are very intriguing, aren't they? It's better to explore this place than to fight and kill. What do you think?" Jin tried to change Fischer's mind, and tried to persuade Fischer. "Is there no one in the city?" "That place really caught my attention. It can indeed be regarded as the first purpose of exploration. However, let me test it first. If the test is what I think, then we will divert to explore the uninhabited city." Fischer heard this, pondered for a moment, and then gave a reply. "Originally, I was thinking that there was nothing I could do, so I went back to be a tool person with everyone. Now that Jin has sent an invitation, if he can't use the battle to improve his strength by then, it's not a bad idea to explore the City of Five. That place is indeed very interesting. If we can unlock the secret of the uninhabited city, then we will be able to know whether there are native humans on the Dark Continent." Netero was also very moved. However, he is now the person in charge of the Hunter Association this time, and even if he is tempted, he can't walk away at will. "Don't come here to make trouble. You guys are with the two of us." Once the group of guys targeting Fischer shows up, "We too have a way to save our lives, but you old man doesn't." Hearing Netero's words, Jinfu bluntly vetoed it. "What the hell, you kid? How dare you underestimate this old man?" Being so despised by Jin, Netero immediately blew his beard and stared, and the faint light behind him was the prelude to the formation of the 100 styles of Avalokitesvara, the meaning of Shiguanian photographed. Seeing this, Jin unceremoniously walked to Fischer's side, directly using Fischer as a shield. Sure enough, Netero's 100 forms of Avalokitesvara disappeared before it was formed. Still, Netero glared at Jin unhappily. "Vertical bar, you really deserve a beating. No wonder you are so unpopular in the association." Fischer looked at the triumphant Jin on his left and said speechlessly, "Hey, thank you for the compliment," Jin said with a smile. "Shameless." Netero curled his lips in disdain. Seeing this, Jin stared back immediately. "Fischer, Killua and the others have been attacked. After killing the enemy, let me give them the location of the enemy's organization base. Do you want to give it to them?" At this moment, Miji, who was not far away, suddenly looked up, returned to Fischer and asked, "Huh? Being attacked so quickly?" "Since they want the location of the base, then give it to them. Let them handle it themselves." Fischer was a little surprised that Killua and the others would be attacked soon, but he still gave an answer. "With the current strength of Killua and Gun, it is more than enough to destroy an AI family. After all, although the members of AI's family are all that naughty, they are all rubbish after all. With the current strength of Killua and Gun, destroying this kind of organization is almost effortless. Just need to be careful about the fourth prince of the Kajin Empire, Chilidnish. This guy's ability is probably not simple." "Okay." Miji nodded and started sending messages to Killua. "Where is that Chilidnish guy now?" Fischer asked. "Let me see. It seems that we have already reached the 3rd floor, and we are rushing towards the base of AI's house." Miji inquired for a moment, and then gave the answer. "Well, tell Killua slave about this together." "Okay." Chapter 219. Illumi's actions, restrained Foresight. It's really weak. On the 4th floor, in Xiuwu's base, Illumi looked at the lying corpses all over the ground with a blank expression on his face. As I said before, Illumi's original purpose of joining this trip to the Dark Continent was to use his own abilities and use them in the lower ranks of the BW to improve his own strength. And the underworld organization that dominates every floor is naturally Illumi's primary target. After boarding the ship, Illumi left the Zoldyck family directly and went to the lower floors to find the target. And the first floor that Illumi stepped into was not the 3rd floor, but the 4th floor. Because he knew that the 3rd layer was a cooperative force of the 4 princes of the Kajin Empire, he still knew this information, so he skipped the planning to hand it over to Fischer, the 4th master of the Kajin Empire, Chilidnish. His goal is on the 4th and 5th floors. The power of the Xiuwu family is very strong, and it is very strong for ordinary people. Even for first-class hunters, it would be very difficult for those who wanted to clean up Xiuwu's house. At least several first-class hunters would be needed to deal with it. But for Illumi, an organization at the level of Xiuwu's family is very crotch. It was easy for Illumi to clean up the organization. Moreover, he deliberately showed mercy. You know, it is easy to kill a person, but it is more difficult to kill this person and save his life. A hairsprayer once said 363. It is difficult to master the power to step over the ants without killing them. Although Illumi is not that big booze, it is very difficult for Illumi, a killer who is used to killing people, to do this kind of thing. Not to mention being merciful when dozens of N besieged Illumi together. Seda. The next step is to accept the results. Looking at the many N people lying unconscious on the ground, Illumi took out a bottle from his clothes, then slowly bent down, and poured his blood in the bottle one by one. Poured it into the mouths of these naughty men. After pouring his own blood into all then, Illumi casually found a sofa, sat down regardless of the clutter on the sofa, took out his phone and started playing. Quietly waiting for his blood to take effect. Time passed quietly. Half an hour passed, and Illumi, who was playing with his mobile phone, paused slightly. His expressionless face turned to the unconscious N on the ground and forgot about the past. Successful. Muttering, Illumi stood up, then flicked his hands. Dozens of reading needles appeared, flung them out without looking at them, completely erasing the lives of these N people. After doing this, Illumi closed her eyes, quietly waiting for her ability to take effect. Within 2 seconds, a powerful force erupted from Illumi's body. The arrogance soared to the sky, and a violent wave of air began to spin in the spacious room. It's really a powerful force. However, the practice of these guys is not really stretching the hips. Forget it, don't care about this. Let's find the next target now. I remember that the management organization on the 5th floor is Xiaoya's family. After feeling the power emerging from his body, Illumi opened his eyes, whispered faintly, and then left here. Leave a messy room. As for whether the people on the 4th floor will be difficult to manage after the people of Xiaoyu's family are killed by him, that's not his business. Illumi is not interested in this. At the same time, on the other side, Killua and Gun also found the base of AI's family after reading the information from them. Selidnish, the 4th prince of the Kajin Empire. When he came to the base of AI's house, Killua could not help frowning and read out when he saw Cheridnish. Yo, Killua's Oldyak, it's our first time meeting. Selidnish smiled and waved to Killua, saying hello, as if he didn't mean to be hostile at all. Behind him are the surviving members of AI's family, standing respectfully. However, although Selidnish behaved very naturally, both Killua and Gun could feel the killing intent on Selidnish. The killing intent was very weak, so weak that even the strong would it's hard to feel. But Killua and Gun are not ordinary powerhouses. One is a killer, very sensitive to murderous intent. Not to mention the other one, Gun, Ajkp, guy is a weirdo, very sensitive to breath, even more to smell. So, after seeing Selidnish and thinking about the information Fischer gave them before, the first thoughts in the two people's hearts were surprisingly consistent. That is to do it directly and kill Cholido Zonksai. Now that it has been confirmed that the relationship is hostile, and the other party has murderous intentions towards him and others, Killua and Gun will naturally not wait for Selidnish to deal with him. However, just when Killua and Gun were about to make a move, Selidnish, who was sitting on a sofa, seemed to have sensed something, with a frightened expression on his face, and the whole person stepped back, kneeling on the ground with one knee, terrified. He looked at Killua and Gun, especially Gun. Selidnish looked at Gun as if he was looking at a monster. Huh? Sure enough, you guys have the ability to predict the future. Seeing Selidnish's reaction, Killua showed a look that was so true. With Fischer's reminder, the attack that Killua was about to release just now was to deal with Selidnish's future attacks. That is to release a huge thunder, covering the entire room. In this way, even if Selidnish has the ability to predict, it is useless. However, before he even used it, this guy had already exited, and the direction he retreated was still another door in the room. However, Selidnish didn't care about Killua's words of exposing his ability, and still stared at Gun firmly. Huh? Why is this guy staring at Gun? Killua also noticed this keenly, and was very puzzled. How did Killua know how afraid Selidnish was of Gun at this time? It is true that Selidnish's ability is to predict the future, but there are other abilities on this basis. That is, when you enter the state of extreme, you enter a predictive dream similar to a parallel space, and you can watch everything that happens in the future in the predictive dream that is separated from reality, and you can also make changes in the predictive dream in reality. Moreover, the change in reality is only for him, and other people will only have his cognition of predicting everything that happens in the dream. However, just now, after he activated this ability, he indeed foresaw the dream that would happen in the future, and also foresaw the future where Killua was going to release thunder to cover the entire room and carry out a ranged attack. However, it wasn't Killua that shocked him the most, it was Gun who shocked him, because the unknown ability released by Gun actually shattered his precognitive dream space and drove him out of the precognitive dream. This means that his invincible ability was restrained by Gun. His precognition is useless in front of Gun. No, it should be said that it cannot be used under Gun's weird power. For a moment, Selidnish's killing intent towards Gun became more ferocious. Kill that guy. Chapter 220, the fourth prince who died before he came out. And at the moment Selidnish spoke, Killua, who had noticed his reaction long ago, just thought of something. Gun, you keep an eye on this guy, leave the others to me. After leaving a word, Killua rushed out towards the attacking warriors with lightning flashing all over his body. Leave it to me. Gun also noticed this, staring at Selidnish and replied intently. Gun is not an idiot, on the contrary, in terms of fighting, this guy's reflexes are not much inferior to Killua. What Killua could notice, Gun naturally also noticed. Neither knew what Selidnish's ability to see the future was. What? but both of them knew that Selidnish's ability to predict the future was mostly restrained by Gun. Otherwise, Selidnish would not have targeted Gun like this, and the strong killing intent could explain all of this. The thoughts all over his body were raging and violent, and Gun stared at Selidnish, ready to attack at any time. Once Selidnish makes any moves, he will definitely usher in a stormy attack from Gun immediately. Damn it, it's actually restrained. Selidnish did not dare to make any movements at this time, feeling secretly resentful. He really didn't expect things to develop to this point. After he became through cultivation, and after he accidentally cultivated a dream that predicted the future when he was practicing he was full of confidence in this succession battle. In the next half a month or so, some small flaws in the ability to predict the future were perfected, making this ability even stronger. The ability to predict the future makes him extremely confident in himself, because with this ability, no matter what it is, he has the upper hand. When I came here before, I heard that the team leader of the AI family and my half-sister, Marina, all the members sent out by the AI family were dealt with, and he was also fearless, because he is very confident in his own ability. However, this ability died before it came into use. No, it just died in Gun, but it is still useful in others. However, now he is an enemy with Gun. Whether he can survive Gun's hands is still unknown. After all, the aura released by both Gun and Killua is very terrifying. Although I am a monster, I learn in just 2 days, and I can use various skills at my fingertips. However, this does not mean that he can ignore this terrifying gap. Gun and Killua, no matter which one, can be compared with his father and the current king of the Kajin Empire. The only thing he can rely on now is his guardian spirit beast. Although I can't see you, I know that you have been guarding me. I'm doomed this time, and it's up to you whether I can get through it. Selidnish stared at Gun, talking to himself. When Gun heard this guy's words, his gaze moved a little bit up to the position above Selidnish's head. There at this time there is a piecing together Nean beast with a horse body and a human face. This Nean beast is the guardian spirit beast of Selidnish. Gun noticed it from the start. But at this time, the guardian spirit beast was no longer silent after hearing Selidnish's words, and its eyes focused on Gun, and an attack appeared on his body, which was the prelude to the attack. Seeing this scene, Gun's pupils suddenly became darker, and he growled, "Don't move." This growl is very powerful, giving people a will that cannot be questioned or resisted. Even the guardian spirit beast fell down at Gun's voice, because it can feel that once it makes a move, it will usher in a Gun's terrorist attack. However, even so, the guardian spirit beast still acted. He died here because it was impossible for him to watch the fourth Prince Selidnish whom he guarded. The already long neck stretched a lot in an instant, and appeared in front of Gun in an instant, with his mouth wide open to bite down. However, the next moment, the head of Selidnish's guardian spirit beast exploded directly. Seeking flowers. Didn't it tell you not to move? Gun punched out. His eyes were stern, and it was he who blasted the head of the guardian spirit beast with his punch. With just one easy punch, the guardian spirit beast of Selidnish, the fourth prince of the Kajin Empire, fell directly. But Selidnish didn't see this scene, because he couldn't see the existence of the guardian spirit beast. But even so, he knew the result. Gun's perfectly fine appearance was enough to confirm that. Gun won the confrontation between his guardian spirit beast and Gun. And, judging by the fact that Gun continued to stare at himself motionlessly after withdrawing his fist, his guardian spirit beast probably couldn't block the opponent's punch and was wiped out. It's a complete defeat. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. At this time, Selidnish was not frightened, but looked free and easy. People are always looking for murderers, even though he is very confident in himself. Before he came to deal with Killua and Gun, he thought about being counter-killed and dealt with, and he could accept this result. After all, he won't show that kind of gaff after failure. Sa, it's your turn next. At this time, Killua also took care of the remaining Nframei's family. The Nframei's family were not enough for Killua to warm up. Killua, who was dripping with blood, stared at Selidnish indifferently, and walked towards Selidnish step by step. And Gun also walked slowly with Luca, and the two blocked Selidnish one after the other. "Give me a quicker time," Selidnish said with a faint smile. Exclamation mark. The head soared into the sky, and before officially joining the battle of succession, the fourth prince of the Kajin Empire, Selidnish, fell into this lower layer. At the same time, in the Zoldyck area, Fischer was speechless watching the scene where Nasby, who came to the door, had a happy conversation with his grandfather. "My daughter just left, so it's the old father's turn?" Fischer thought silently, leaning against the wall, looking at the smiling Nasby Huigiri who was talking with his grandfather Gino. Chapter 221 Reappearance of Random Sign-In. Fischer didn't care much about the communication between Grandpa and Nasby, even though the communication between the two was related to him. After listening for a few minutes, Fischer left here directly, leaving space for the two to go back to practice. Fischer is not interested in the affairs of the Kajin Empire. Instead of participating in the affairs of the Kajin Empire, it is better to spend time on cultivation. Improve your strength as much as possible before entering the Dark Continent. After all, the high-level existence in that place is no weaker than himself, and even much stronger. Back in his room, Fischer put other things behind him, and began to practice without distraction. Let Grandpa and Dad deal with the matter of the Khajan Empire. Time flies like an arrow, time flies, and half a month has passed as soon as you turn your 697 eyes. In the dark room where Fischer retreated, Fischer slowly opened his eyes. In the past half a month, the succession battle of the Khajan Empire ended on the fourth day. With the intervention of Dad and the others, coupled with Nasby's own intentions, the new king of Khajan was established as Camilla. As for the other princes, they all became sacrifices, fulfilling Camilla. In the final analysis, the egg in the pot ceremony is to allow many princes to cultivate guardian spirit beasts, strengthen the power of guardian spirit beasts, and finally devour each other. The winning prince can fuse all guardian spirit beasts and inherit the cultivation of the princes. Therefore, Camilla directly became a strong master from a not very strong, but rather special player. However, Fischer did not pay special attention to these. Fischer originally planned to practice in seclusion to improve mind energy before entering the Dark Continent. But now he had to wake up for a reason, because the system is moving again. Ding. Sign-in has been triggered. May I ask the host to sign in? Aren't there any signs of triggering? It's really strange. Thinking, Fischer said. System, sign in. Ding. The sign-in was successful. Congratulations to the host for getting the sign-in task. Task name, Fairy's Magic. Task Introduction. Invite the host to go to Fairy Tale World to learn magic 400 years ago, and become the strongest and the most profound magician in Fairy Tale World. Mission reward. The origin of magic. Looking at the sign-in task popped up by the system, Fischer was stunned on the spot, looking very confused. System, you really did not choose the wrong name, it's so random. All of a sudden I'm learning magic. Can you tell me why? After being stunned for a moment, Fischer tentatively asked the system. However, as expected, the system went missing again, and Fischer didn't respond at all. Fischer had no choice but to dismiss the idea of asking the system to do so. Rubbing his chin, Fischer looked at the system tasks reflected in his retina and remained silent. The magic civilization in the fairy tale world has developed very brightly, and there are many strong people among them. For example, that guy Jeff is, that guy is almost omnipotent, and he is the most powerful magician. I am naturally very happy with things like learning magic. After all, it would be nice to have one more method, and it also allows me to use all my magic power. But being the strongest and the most knowledgeable wizard in the world of fairy tale is bullshit. Even if I have the ability to increase tenfold, I can absorb it tenfold faster in terms of learning, but it will take a long time, at least 10 years. I'm about to enter the Dark Continent now, and the daylily has been cold for 10 years. The host doesn't have to worry. This time, I went to the fairy tale world to practice magic. Time in this world doesn't flow. Whenever the host leaves, it's when the host comes back. As soon as Fischer's thoughts came to his mind, the system that thought he was diving and running suddenly crashed out. Didn't you run away? Forget it. Let's not talk about this. You mean this mission? How long will I stay in that world? And the time here will not pass. Hearing the system's voice, Fischer's eyes twitched slightly, and then he asked, "That's it, host?" The system replied, "That will be a good thing. I can use this time to improve my strength before entering the Dark Continent." Well, speaking of it, it seems that I don't need to enter the Dark Continent when I come back. 10 years is enough for my Nianchi cultivation to reach the threshold of becoming a god. No, there is still grace. I came to the Dark Continent to improve this thing. This thing will not be upgraded just because my Nianchi cultivation level becomes stronger. What is needed is fighting. And the target of the fight is based on my own lower limit. The stronger the battle, the more terrifying the improvement will be. On the basis of a substantial increase in strength, I can use the favor to become stronger. When I reach the limit of the favor, I will definitely be more terrifying than ordinary gods. And it's a god with 2 systems, and its strength is absolutely terrifying. This can be. System, send me there. Having figured this out, Fischer didn't procrastinate, and directly asked the system to send him to Fairy Tale to learn magic. As for what to explain to the family members, anyway, when to go and when to come back, what else should I explain in this situation? If you don't do 4.2 well, you will be regarded as a fool. As you wish. The system's voice sounded. Immediately, the familiar scene reappeared. The holy light illuminated the entire dark room, and Fischer's whole body was covered by the light. The light disappeared, the dark room became dark again, and Fischer's figure disappeared from the dark room. And in another world, in a bedroom of a majestic magic student, a white light flashed, and Fischer's figure appeared on the bed in the bedroom. Huh? This is it? Fischer opened his eyes and saw a strange room. He was puzzled. Welcome to Mildian Academy of Magic. The system replied. Academy of Magic? Chapter 222 Death Hunt. Mildian School of Magic? Is there a school of magic in Fairy Tale? I've never heard of it. Hearing this title, Fischer was full of question marks. However, since it is the era of Fairy Tale 400 years ago, it should be an academy that did not appear in the original book. That's right. The system asked me to come to this world to learn magic and become the most powerful magician, so it is indeed reasonable to send me to the Magic Academy. With this in mind, Fischer felt a torrent of information appearing in his mind. In the blink of an eye, Fischer understood his identity in this world. The identity arranged by the system for me as a student of the Mildian Academy of Magic, who specializes in space-type magic, and has only learned one magic in the past few years since entering school, and that is flickering. Hey, is my identity arranged according to my actual situation? System, you really have a heart. After reading the information given by his own iron system, Fischer couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Having a suitable identity will be much more convenient for Fischer to learn various kinds of magic in this magic academy. After all, if a person's situation is seriously inconsistent with a person's design, then people in the magic academy will also suspect it, which is also a big trouble for Fischer. However, I just don't know whether there are many magics in this magic academy, whether they are powerful enough, and whether they can let me learn more powerful and numerous magics. To be able to stand on the continent of Ishkar 400 years ago and not be destroyed by the dragons, the strength of this magic academy should be very good. I guess it should be extraordinary. Sir, let's take a look at the library of the law school. I remember it was in this direction. Standing up, Fischer walked towards the door, preparing to go to the library of the magic academy where he was now to find out. However, as soon as he left the dormitory, Fischer felt a very powerful force erupted somewhere in the academy, so powerful that even Fischer felt it was very difficult. Fischer's pupils constricted instantly. Is there such a terrifying existence in this academy? And just as Fischer's thought flashed, a black hair appeared in Fischer's field of vision and swept towards this side from the depths of the corridor in a diffuse shape. Danger. Seeing this lightning-fast black hair, this idea appeared in Fischer's mind for the first time. This black hair, death hunting. That guy Jeff is around. Fischer thinks that his strength is very terrifying, and he is also a top existence in the world of fairy tale. Even the era of the coexistence of humans and dragons in the fairy tale world 400 years ago was the same. It was a top existence. Fischer thought he could be compared with the dragon kings of this era except the Black Dragon King. However, facing the black aura now, Fischer felt a dangerous aura. Moreover, the diffusion pattern of the black air was very familiar to Fischer, and the appearance of Jeff flashed in his mind instantly. There is only one move that can make oneself feel dangerous, and this is still the case. That is the death hunt unleashed when giraffe, cursed by the god Anxlem, gets out of control. In the fairy tale world, there are only two people with the ability to hunt for death. One is giraffe, and the other is Mebis, the first generation leader of fairy tale. But now, in this era 400 years ago, it is naturally impossible for Mebis to appear. Then the only reason is Jeff. The college I'm in now is the college where Giraffe is, and it just happened to be the time when Giraffe was cursed by the god Anxlem. A thought flashed in Fischer's mind, and a powerful thunder erupted from his body. A halo of thunder wrapped around the surroundings, contending with the power of the death hunt. The struggle between death hunt and Fischer's thunder erupted with terrifying energy fluctuations. The entire corridor was thundered and lightning, and black hair raged. In just a few seconds, the dormitory area where Fischer was located was completely destroyed by the terrifying impact of the collision of two forces, turning it into a ruin. And as the dormitory area turned into ruins, the power of the death hunt quickly shrank back and flowed back in a certain direction. Standing in the ruins, Fischer frowned slightly as he felt the situation in the academy. It's such a terrifying power, it wiped out all the creatures in the entire academy in an instant. Fischer murmured to himself after perceiving the situation in the academy. When he first came to this world, Fischer could still feel the vitality in the academy, but now, the entire academy has completely quieted down. Song is left with him and another breath. Jeff. Fischer looked at the direction of another aura in the academy with a complex expression, and remained silent. Although he knew that this was not Jeff's original intention, all the creatures in the academy did indeed die because of Jeff. The curse that Giraffe received is Anxlem's black magic, one of the ancient curses, also known as the contradictory 253 curse. The more you respect life, the more you release it. 1. The energy of death. On the contrary, if you do not respect the life of all things, you will not release the energy of death. Killing all the creatures in the entire academy in an instant means that Giraffe respects the lives of creatures very much, and the more he respects the lives of creatures, the more terrifying the death energy that can erase life will be when the contradictory curse is modeled. Although I sympathize with your situation, you have caused me a lot of trouble. Slightly sighed. Fischer looked helplessly at the dim yellow sky. The purpose of the system sending him to this magic academy is self-evident, that is to let him come here to learn magic. Fortunately for Jeff, he has just arrived, and he hasn't had time to say hello to the instructors of the academy, and he hasn't formally touched the learning of magic yet. This guy directly killed all the tutors, students and others in the entire academy. Who did this lead him to learn magic from? Since you have killed everyone else, the burden of my learning a magic can only fall on you. Fischer looked back at the sky, looked at the location of Ziraph's breath again, and murmured Naam, then walked over there and walked past the doctor. Chapter 223, Young Jeff. The huge academy was extremely quiet, and Fischer's habitual users walked silently in the corridor, slowly walking towards where Jeff was. The place where Jeff is located is a room. Looking at the location of this room, Fischer knows without guessing that this is the dean's room of the college, because it is guarded. Gently opening the door of the dean's room, Fischer looked inside. In the magnificent room, a black-haired boy was kneeling on the ground and weeping in pain. In front of him was an old man with a kind face, a neat long beard, and wearing the dean's costume. However, the old man's face was ashen at this time, and he didn't need to think about it to know that there was no sound. The arrival of Fischer awakened Zeref, who was crying bitterly. Jeff looked over in disbelief. His eyes revealed disbelief, as if he hadn't expected that someone would survive under the terrifying power released by him. How could it be? I didn't feel any human breath at all. Looking at Fischer in a daze, Jeff read out uncontrollably. At this time, Jeff didn't know what the black magic power erupted from his body was, but he felt that under the sweep of the black magic power that erupted from him, the creatures in the entire academy lost the breath of life. In other words, the power he erupted killed everyone in the academy. That's why he was in such pain, because he personally killed the entire anti-colleague companion. But now, looking at the college student clothes Fischer was wearing, Jeff knew that the person in front of him was a survivor of the college. Someone is still alive. For a moment, Jeff was overwhelmed with grief and joy, weeping with joy, crying and laughing. Still a teenager, Zeref, who hadn't become the weather-beaten black mage, couldn't control himself, and rushed towards Fischer. However, the next moment, the black magic power broke out again, sweeping out at close range! The thunder on Fischer's body also swept away instantly, colliding with the death hunting on Jeff's body. How could it be? Jeff also noticed it at this time, and he couldn't help but pause when he jumped at Fischer, and stopped at the same place and looked at the scene with disbelief. Calm down, Zeref, Fischer yelled loudly as he unleashed thunder against the black magic that hunted death. He knew that Axelum's curse had struck again. Jeff felt joy because of Fischer's survival, and this joy took an extreme transformation under the curse of contradiction, directly turning into a death hunt to kill Fischer. The power in you is the curse of contradiction. The more you respect life, the more you will destroy life. Calm down, don't think too much. The power of death hunting will disappear. Fischer explained the situation of the contradictory curse to Zeref concisely. Hearing this, Jeff's pupils shrank immediately. Then, in less than 2 seconds, Jeff's expression became calm, and the black magic power of death hunting released from his body also gradually faded. 10 seconds later, the power of the death hunt completely disappeared. Obviously, Zeref is very smart. After Fischer explained it, Zeref immediately understood and controlled the launch of the death hunt. Thank you. A calm Zeref thanked Fischer with no expression on his face. Obviously, Jeff, who had just started to control the death hunt, could not control his facial changes at will. After thanking him again, Jeff turned around and returned to the old man with a kind face, squatting down, reaching out and hugging the old man. This kind-faced old man should be the dean of the academy. Can you help me? Zeref asked Fischer with a deadpan face. Let me help too. Looking at Jeff's appearance, Fischer knew what Jeff wanted to do without him asking. Jeff wants Fischer's help in burying everyone in the academy. Without saying much, Fischer turned and left here, preparing to deal with the corpses in the academy. After all, I will learn magic here next. If you don't deal with it, this academy will be abolished, and you can't stay here. After Fischer turned and left, Jeff hugged the dean's body and followed him. The two spent 2 hours burying all those who died from the death hunt that erupted from the contradictory curse on Zeref, right in the playground. This is the only place in the academy that has such a large open space. Standing in front of the playground, Jeff stared at the densely packed wooden tombstones with a calm expression, without saying a word. They didn't even dare to show their sadness. Because once the thought of being sad because of the death of these people arises in their hearts, the death hunt will start again, which is the curse of contradiction. And he is not the only one in the academy. There is Fischer by his side. Fischer is now the only survivor besides him in the academy, and he doesn't want Fischer to die in the death hunt. Looking at Zeref, who looked calm and didn't even dare to express grief, Shell sighed slightly. Woo zao zao, *vertical bar. I'm leaving this academy temporarily, and I'll come back to you the day after tomorrow. Throwing a sentence to Zeref, Fischer turned into a thunderbolt and soared into the sky, leaving the huge magic academy. Let's leave it to Jeff for now. Zeref with a calm face looked up towards the direction Fischer was leaving, and remained silent for a long time. A few minutes later, Jeff's expression was finally uncontrollable. The corners of his mouth were trembling and wriggling. He lowered his head, tears splashed from his eyes, fell to the ground, and the snot flowed from his nose uncontrollably. The middle is left out, and the whole face is directly painted. There was no one else in the academy. Jeff finally lost control, and burst into tears. After all, it wasn't the black mage who had lived for 400 years. A death hunt swept across the academy. Chapter 224 The God Standard of System. Additional magic. There is really a lot of magic essence in this world. However, this is not the moment when the world's magic energy is at its peak. The era 400 years later will be the era when magic essence will reach its peak. Otherwise, the Yanlong King and other 5-headed giant dragons would not plan to travel 400 years later with Zeref. There is no magic power in the world of HunterxHunter, and Fischer's magic power is produced by Fischer's own bounty. Each time you use it, your magic power will become stronger when you update it. Fischer's magical power can only be improved through the renewal of grace, and cannot be strengthened through cultivation like Nyanki. The magic power is to resonate with the magic essence of the outside world, and absorb the magic essence of the outside world into its own magic power. In the world of Hunter, there is no such energy as magic element, which enhances magic power. Fischer's magic power will be restored, but it will not be improved, and can only rely on favor. On the contrary, the thought energy used by people in battle is extracted from the body. As long as the body can be replenished, it can be improved. But in the world of 497, Fischer could feel that the air was filled with huge magic energy. It's a good place to improve your magic power. You can improve your magic power while practicing various kinds of magic. However, the system, I still don't understand. Why did you set this kind of check-in task for me? You want me to become Fairy Tale's most profound, mastery of magic, and strongest magician. Standing on the top of a towering tree, under the evening breeze, Fischer's hair fluttered, and he looked at the scenery under the night sky with a calm expression, because heart silently thinking. The gods in the eyes of this system must be omnipotent, not just a single ability to become a god. This kind of god is not looked down upon by this system. Host, since you are the host of this system, you must be different from those gods, and you must bloom different fireworks. Although you, the host, have quite a lot of abilities, you can't meet the standards of this system. And the magic in this world is the most diverse and the most prosperous. There used to be a very prosperous age of magic, Ajp, and an extremely bright flower of magic bloomed. Although it has fallen, it still retains all kinds of magic. The host can only meet the standard of this system if he has mastered all these magics. Even if you can't be truly omnipotent, you won't become a false god with only 1 or 2 abilities. The system rarely answered Fischer's doubts. False gods? 1 or 2 abilities? Before the host becomes a god, the host masters all the magic in this world. Then after becoming a god, what the host masters will become divine magic. This will greatly enhance your strength as the host. The system continued to explain. In short, host, you must learn the magic of this world. In this world, you don't need to learn all the magic, but you must master at least 8 levels of magic. Fischer, why do I feel like you have obsessive-compulsive disorder? Listening to the system's explanation, Fischer was silent for a while, and then said tentatively, system. As soon as Fischer's words came out, the system went down immediately, and then he dived directly. System, system, system. Fischer yelled 3 times inwardly but got no response. Dive again. Forget it. The magic in this world is also very good, especially the additional magic of Dragon Queen Irene. The power developed by the additional magic is really terrifying, and it is very practical. Fischer murmured in a low voice, thinking of the practical additional magic that Irene Bessarion had seen in her previous life. It feels like anything Irene can think of can be added, whether it's adding hardness to objects, adding heat, or adding shock waves. Even conceptual magic like personality can be added. Dragon Slayer magic is also a product of added magic, and even the ability to seize the soul can also be done. It can be said that it is a kind of magic of panacea. As long as you master this kind of magic, you will master almost 10 or even dozens or even hundreds of kinds of magic. If you have time, go find this guy and see if you can learn this magic from Irene. I remember that guy Irene is the queen of a certain country in this era, right? I forgot which country it was. However, you can ask Zeref. Which country is protected by the giant dragon named Bessarion? It's okay to ask other people. Rubbing his chin, Fischer made a decision. Other magic Fischer doesn't have much idea for now, but for additional magic, Fischer wants to get it. That guy Jeff is still sad. Forget it. Anyway, I have already said to come back to him the day after tomorrow. Let him be sad enough for these 2 days. Standing up, Fischer moved his body, making a series of bone collision sounds, and then his figure flashed turned into lightning and flew out towards the distance. The night is dark, and Fischer will not sleep in the wilderness. Although it is far away, Fischer can still feel the town hundreds of kilometers away. Go straight to that town and rest. Fischer's speed is very fast, and it took a short time to reach the small town. Using the currency he already possessed as his identity, he found a hotel and opened a room. Fischer simply washed up and went straight to sleep. I thought it was a good sleep, but not long after lying down, Fischer was awakened by a deafening explosion. Opening his eyes, Fischer suddenly sat up from the bed, looking in a certain direction. It's such a powerful breath of life. Is the breath of life of this level the giant dragon of this era? There are still a lot of life breaths dying. Meet a dragon? My luck really exploded. Slowly getting out of bed, Fischer came to the window and murmured to himself, looking at the direction of the flames in the distance. There are not only blazing flames, but also lizards flapping huge wings. The next moment, Fischer turned into a thunderbolt and charged in that direction. Chapter 225 Thunder Dragon. The fire spread rapidly, and countless residents scrambled to be the first, fleeing in a hurry, wishing they could grow 2 more legs. However, the next moment, Another thunderbolt fell from the sky and hit the ground. The residents of the small town who were fleeing were buried in the sea of fire just after they escaped from the sea of fire. And in the sky, a ferocious giant dragon was watching this scene with a playful expression. Haha, the terrified look of human ants when they face our noble dragon is always pleasing to the eye. The giant dragon in the sky flapped its wings and said in a cheerful tone. It was a thunder that shot out from its mouth and blasted into the small town. In just a few seconds, half of the town's area was destroyed by this giant dragon. And the town is not without resistance. One after another weak magic is constantly attacking the dragon hovering in the sky while the dragon is destroying the town. However, these attacks are just sinking into the sea, without causing any waves. The giant dragon is so powerful that the mages in the town can't do any damage to it, not even scratching it. Damn, why didn't there be any warning? In a building in a small town, a group of people were gathering here, and one of the middle-aged people was roaring angrily at this moment. Mayor, in this era, human beings are very vigilant about the existence of giant dragons, because most small towns have plans to deal with dragon attacks. The town's plan is to send mages to patrol the surrounding mountains, and report immediately if they find a dragon. After getting the report, the whole town will start to run like a machine, and everyone will hide in the underground shelter jointly built by the town, hoping to escape the catastrophe. As for confronting the giant dragon, they dare not even think about such a thing. In this era, there are only a handful of human beings who can deal with giant dragons. Naturally, there will be no such characters in their small town. Most likely he was killed. Next to the middle-aged man was a bald old man, who said with a sigh, "The most urgent task now is to relocate all the residents in the area that has not been damaged. I'm already doing it, but I don't know if it's too late." Hearing what the old man said, a young man rushed to report. "Oh, I hope it's in time." The middle-aged mayor let go of his fist rudely, speaking weakly. Facing the giant dragon, they have no ability to resist and can only do their best to survive. The others were silent when they heard the words. This era is too cruel for human beings. Although among the giant dragons there are giant dragons of the affinity faction that protect a group of humans, there are not many such giant dragons in the dragon clan, and there are not many places that can protect them, and their small town happens to be a place that is not blessed by giant dragons. "Have you contacted Myldean Academy of Magic?" After sighing, the middle-aged mayor asked without looking back. "Mayor, I have contacted. But there is no China Unicom." A person behind the middle-aged mayor stood up and reported. When speaking, this subordinate was also very puzzled. The closest population gathering place to their town is Myldean Academy of Magic. Because the distance between the two is the shortest, the connection between the two is very close. The town can be said to be blessed by the Myldean Academy of Magic. When encountering such a thing as a dragon attack, they immediately thought of sending a message to Myldean Academy of Magic for help. They are not sure whether they can come or not. As I said before, there are not many dragons in this era who can compete, even the army of the kingdom. If it weren't for the blessing of a giant dragon with the affinity faction, it can be said that human beings would have perished long ago. And Myldean Academy of Magic may be able to compete with a dragon in the academy. After all, it is an academy of magic. But in other places, Myldean Academy of Magic does not have this ability. So they didn't hold out much hope. However, this is based on the connection. But now, they have not been able to contact the Myldean School of Magic. Could it be that this giant dragon has already attacked Myldean Academy of Magic before attacking us? The old man frowned. Damn it. The mayor clenched his fist again, because the old man said that the possibility is very high. They have a very close connection with Myldean Academy of Magic, and there has never been a situation where they cannot be contacted. Seeking flowers. But now, the appearance of Hilong can be linked to this matter. If the Myldean Academy of Magic cannot be contacted, it is very likely that the giant dragon attacked the Myldean Academy of Magic, which caused a major change in the Myldean Academy of Magic, so that they could not be contacted at all. Mayor, I saw a mage wearing the costume of the Myldean Academy of Magic appearing in front of the dragon. At this time, a man who had been staring at the dragon's position and the two magic circles in front of his eyes, the wizard, spoke suddenly. Really? The mayor was overjoyed when he heard this. At this time, the magician of the Myldean Academy of Magic that the magician said was quietly floating in front of the dragon. The giant dragon's attack also stopped, staring at the mage in front of him solemnly, not daring to relax at all. Brontosaurus? Looking at the huge dragon in front of him, Fischer raised his eyebrows and asked. This guy used thunder roar from beginning to end to attack the town. This is definitely a thunder dragon. It fits well with me, and I am also a master at using thunderbolt. I didn't expect that to be someone as strong as you among human beings. Unknown powerhouse. Do you want to save these ants? The thunder-type giant dragon opposite Fischer did not have the rampant look before, and stared at Fischer vigilantly, and said, "Save it? Why did you say that?" Fischer raised his eyebrows again when he heard the thunder dragon's words. He was very surprised. Huh? Since he didn't come to protect these ants, why did he appear in front of this dragon? Fischer's answer made the thunder dragon in front of him very puzzled. "Ah, you said this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to protect them. I killed you," Fischer said with a smile on his face. When he heard this, Thunder Dragon. Arsehole. Roar. The Thunder Dragon roared, shaking the heavens and the earth. Come on. Fischer also let go and roared, full of thunderburst force. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, link in the description. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.